The City of San Clemente respects the many people of different faiths who reside here. The City Council historically begins its session with an invocation offered by one of the religious leaders of our community with full appreciation of our shared belief that we are one nation under God. And while the city cannot endorse any particular religion, we respect the religious freedom and freedom of expression of all our citizens to pray as they feel led to pray. This evening's invocation will be given by Pastor Holland Davis of Calvary Chapel, San Clemente.
Thank you. Let's pray. Lord, it says in your word to give the kings your judgments. And Lord, tonight we ask that you would give these men and women your judgments, that you would give them your heart, Lord. And we thank you for them, Lord. We thank you for their courage, Lord. We thank you for their wisdom. Lord, we thank you for their willingness to sacrifice their time and sometimes even their families, Lord, to serve our community. And we ask, Lord, that you would stand with them, that you would bless them, that you would protect them, Lord. That, Lord, you would bless their businesses, Lord, that you would bless their children, Lord, that you would bless their children's children. Lord, that you would surround them and protect them, Lord. And Lord, we ask that you would, even tonight, now, speak in and through them as they govern our great city. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Please join me in a pledge of allegiance to our great country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Donchak. Here. Councilmember Ward. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Baker.
Here.
Mayor Ham.
Here.
First item on the agenda is presentation of a proclamation to Martin Garf of Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, proclaiming October 17th as Readiness Awareness Day.
There's a lot of whereas.
Say whereas.
Are we truly ready for everything on this day? Or is this just
We're
remind
gonna
people?
get ready.
There we
Get
go. Perfect. Well, instead of me reading these many paragraphs of whereas that are in here, I think I'll just take this opportunity to let you guys say a couple words about how we can get ready.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
And I'll stand here and look pretty.
Okay, you're going to stand there and hold the
Yes.
proclamation?
Yes.
All right. We're delighted to be here. We thank you all for this proclamation of October 17th being San Clemente Readiness Day. We're delighted with the proclamation. And in support of that proclamation, you'll see in front of you some lovely, would you like to hold those up and see the backs of those? Yes, and we'd love to have a picture of you, if you wouldn't mind, holding your picture or holding your shirts up, and we'll maybe even make the paper. We don't know. See, there you go. We got to see you, Bob. We got to see you. There you go. Great. We'll hope that you'll all be there. It's going to be a tremendous fun festival. Lots of things for children to do, and many of the fire and Coast Guard and Marines and all of the first responders, the sheriff's department from the reserves. They're all going to be there. So we're going to teach how to do things in preparing for an emergency, and then you can go outside and there will be all the events going on what to do. So we thank you very much for this proclamation.
Perfect.
Thank
you want
you.
to share the date and location?
Yes, the date, the mayor will be kicking it off at 10 a.m., and it goes from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m., and there will be food trucks and music and a lot of things going on for you. It would be a fun time to learn how to get ready for an emergency, and we hope that we can all be together prepared and enhance a sense of community.
That's October 17th.
October
At the
17th.
Mr. Sports Park.
At 310 Vista, Montana. So it's right up on top of the hill, that big vacant lot that's right up on top of the hill. That's where it is, right there.
Perfect. Right next to the church.
church.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. We'll
Thank
see
you.
you then.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thanks. Good to see you. Thanks. There you go.
Thank you.
Next is presentation of a proclamation to Mary Dahm and Susan Schultz proclaiming September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week.
So this is the 228th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States.
Correct.
That's pretty impressive that we've had it last this long, right?
That's right.
I think it's time for a new one, probably. So next year we'll just go out and rewrite this thing. Are you kidding me? You know how long it takes us to do the smallest things up here, trying to rewrite the Constitution? It'll take us another 300 years, I think. Well, would you ladies like to say a couple words about what you guys are about? And
Sure.
everything.
Thank
And I'll
you
hold
very
this and look
much.
pretty for you guys as well. So
okay.
please start with the next one.
Well, in 1955, the Daughters of the American Revolution petitioned Congress to proclaim September 17th to 23rd annually as Constitution Week, a time of education, remembrance, and celebration. And it was on September 17th, 1787, that the Constitution was signed. So our chapter, come here, Mary. Our chapter, San Clemente Island chapter, we provide educational displays in the South County libraries, and we're having a luncheon on the 17th, and then walking to Mission San Juan Capistrano, where the mission bells will ring at 1 o'clock. And this is a national event called Bells Across America, and the bells ring all across the country at 1 o'clock, which is when the Constitution was signed. So you're all absolutely welcome to come. We'd love to have you. 1 o'clock, San Juan Capistrano, and we're looking forward to it. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
ladies,
very
for reminding
much.
us. We
Appreciate it. Yes.
Thank
Hope you'll
you.
come.
Is there a website is there a website for this Bells Across America? Is there,
It's on the National DAR website.
Okay. okay, what a great idea.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Mayor, if I might, I'd just like to remind all the citizens of San Clemente that we've got a copy of the United States Constitution on the back wall right here, and we've got another copy down at the Community Center presented by the Exchange Club in 1976.
I had the intentions of reminding people of
Thank
that,
you.
but I'm glad you did.
Next is a presentation by Carolyn Emery, Chief Executive of Orange County Local Agency Formation Commission, concerning the South Orange County Visioning Process, Rancho Mission Viejo Study Area.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and honorable council members. First, thank you so much for inviting the LAFCO staff to come out and talk to you and give you kind of a high-level overview of the South Orange County governance visioning process, which your staff has participated in now for over a year. So certainly want to thank them as we value their participation and input into this process. I know you've been given a packet. It's a lot of information in that packet. And I'm sure you need some time to really go through that. And again, we've been working closely with your staff to answer and address questions. And that was really a collaborative effort that's before you this evening. But what my intention is this evening to really just give you kind of an overview of that process and things that we've accomplished during the governance visioning process. So 2 years ago, the commission, the Local Agency Formation Commission, approved a visioning process to discuss future governance for multiple areas in the South Orange County region. South Orange County governance is not a new topic for the commission. It's actually been on our radar and a part of our strategic planning sessions now for well over 15 years. But really prompted that in 2013 to re-engage the stakeholders in a process to discuss short and long-term governance options was the development and the progress of the ranch plan. And as that moved forward, the commission decided in 2013, it's time to really re-engage all the key affected agencies and stakeholders in South Orange County to talk about what future governance should look like involving multiple areas down in your area. So I wanted to really just highlight for you the visioning process timeline, which is a roadmap. What has your staff really been participating in? What has really occurred since 2013? I've already mentioned the commission adopted a visioning process, which really outlined what we were trying to accomplish on behalf of LAFCO. In October 2013, Orange County LAFCO worked with the county and Rancho Mission Viejo to develop a fiscal model. What we did prior to starting the visioning process was go out and do interviews, which included your city, and talk with all the stakeholders and say, what is really important as we engage on this journey to look at South Orange County governance. And what we heard back from each of the stakeholders repeatedly was, we really need to understand the cost and revenues that are associated with these various agencies. So what we did back in October 2013, the commission hired a fiscal consultant to develop a model that really looked at the cost and revenue that are associated with the areas, which I'll show you a map in the next couple of slides. And we worked closely with the county, because the county currently provides services to these unincorporated areas to develop this model. Then between July 2014 and August of this year, which was a little over a year, as I mentioned, we started to have these stakeholder meetings, which again included your city, to talk about the data that was provided, and then to begin to explore some governance options. 2015 of September, here we are. And what we have agreed to do is to come out and talk to the various council members, various communities, to talk about the process and to really see what the next steps are. And then for LAFCO, at the end of this process, what we were directed by our commission to do is in December of this year is to really bring back a report. They are anxious to hear the feedback that we've gotten from the cities, the agencies that have participated in the process, as well as the communities. So at the end of this process, we will be preparing a very comprehensive report, which will include, hopefully, the feedback that I'm going to talk a little bit about from your board as well as your community.
Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'd like to ask you one question there. In that report, are you going to make recommendations on exactly what you think should transpire?
It's really based on the feedback that we get from individual agencies. And let's just say if the city decides, in the short term, here's where we are. We're not interested in annexation, but we are interested in continuing discussions and staying engaged as far as the ranch plan in any areas that are adjacent to the city, then that's what will be discussed in the report. So we're not really looking to draw, unless a community or a city wants to go there, we're not looking to identify specific recommendations like annexation is going to happen in 2 years. It's more kind of the high level, and we're actually letting the agencies and the communities really take the lead and tell us what we should include in that report. The commission identified 2 governance areas, and there were two separate stakeholder working groups as part of this process. There was your group that included, which is the Rancho Mission Viejo Study Group, and that includes the ranch plan, which we know there are 6 planning areas that are being developed by Rancho Mission Viejo, the unincorporated community of Ladera Ranch, the city, your city, City of San Clemente, the City of San Juan Capistrano, and Santa Margarita Water District, which currently provides the water and wastewater to these areas. The other area was the Rancho Santa Margarita area, and I just wanted to give you that for informational purposes. That includes the city of Rancho Santa Margarita, in some very large unincorporated areas, which include Coto de Caza, Stone Cliff, and Wagon Wheel, but nevertheless, they were 2 separate processes. The stakeholders that participated in your particular area, again, included the County of Orange, because they are a huge service provider within the study area. The unincorporated community of Ladera Ranch, we had representatives from their civic council. LAFCO was a participant of the stakeholder working group. LAFCO also hired a facilitator so that we could be an active participant, part of the group, rather than facilitating the meeting. There were representatives from Rancho Mission Viejo, your city manager, as well as some of your department head staff participated, Santa Margarita Water District, and then the city of San Juan Capistrano.
I'd like to know who participated from our city, because we have a relatively new city manager, so, was Jim Holloway?
Yeah, for the majority of those meetings, yes.
Thank you.
One of the things, you saw that we had a purpose statement for the visioning process, but one of the things that was really important as we brought the group together was to jointly develop what we were trying to accomplish and what was going to be the purpose of the process. It was very similar to the purpose statement that was adopted by the commission, but we wanted to do it more as a collaborative approach. And what the group decided was that at the end of this process, and the purpose of this process would be to provide a forum for all of the stakeholders to envision and consider viable short, mid, and long-term governance scenarios for the Rancho Mission Viejo study area. So it's very similar to what the commission had adopted. What was really important for the group to make best use of everyone's time was to be really specific at the end of the day, what were the desired outcomes as a group and individually for each of the agencies and communities. And again, I've already mentioned one of the things the group said at the very beginning, we need to have an understanding, if we're going to be talking to our council members in our communities, we need to have a clear understanding of the projected revenue and service costs for the study areas. What's it costing the county currently to provide the services? Consideration of viable governance scenarios based on those projections were very important. It was very important for LAFCO, as we've had these discussions, to really talk about what's viable. There are several options out there, which I'll get to in a couple of slides down the road, but what was important from LAFCO's perspective was that everyone understand what is viable, what's a viable governance option.
May I ask a question about that? One of the things that, when I looked at the different revenue scenarios from the different planning areas was some of the detail regarding, for example, let's say parks are developed. In planning area 8, let's just use specifically for San Clemente, a park is developed, and there's a cost for developing that, but there's a deeded, there's also a property portion that may be accompanying that. For example, when Talega was developed, we received a large portion of land as part of the horse trading behind that, which turned into the sports park, which we used to sell Talega, et cetera. One of the things that I didn't understand from necessarily the revenue service costs is what the incentives were for cities, what the horse trading part of that would be, for lack of a better term, to give incentives to be able to make that come together. Is there going to be property exchanged? Is there going to be, right? I guess maybe it's too far afield for that, but I was trying to understand where that part of it also fit into the equation.
It's a good question, and it's certainly often asked by cities, especially when you're talking about an area that's being developed in the county. And timing is very, very important, and that's why, one, we wanted to engage the city along with other stakeholders in this process, because as you're looking at planning area 8 as an example, if the county moves forward or when the developer moves forward to develop that area, it is very important that the city and the county and the developer all have conversation about that very question that you're asking, council member. What are the incentives if a park's going to be developed? Are park and lieu fees, are those available at this point? And that's all part of the negotiations. Now, I know planning area 8 is way out there, but still, one of the things, I think the benefits that's coming out of this process is that we want to make sure that the city understands that timing and to stay engaged and to be at the table as you approach and even think about annexation, because those are all things that are part of negotiations with the county as you consider annexation.
This is more of a higher level review.
Yes.
And as it comes closer, those details start to shape up.
Yes.
And then they become apparent. Okay.
Carolyn, just in terms of meeting time here, how long is your presentation? Is this like a high-level?
It's high level, and I can move through it as quickly as I need.
Because there was about 100 pages of reading here, which I'm sure we all did.
Oh, this is
but-
high level, and I knew you guys got this, got this packet, and so I'm not going to go into, the following slides are not going into the level of detail that you have in the packet, but we're happy to answer any question that you may have. This is very high level and very general. And then the last two things are general stakeholder input and identification of possible timing and next steps. Those were all outcomes that the group decided that they would like to get out of the process. Governance options, as we moved forward in the stakeholder process, the stakeholder group really wanted LAFCO to talk about what are the governance options. This was kind of the beginning of the conversation without even getting into what the obstacles are. They said, what's out there? Tell us what the options are, and then we can start, continue those discussions and get to what's viable. So there, you'll see in the next two slides, the governance options that we provided information on to the stakeholder groups is maintenance corporations. That's sort of the status quo. That's present in a lot of the unincorporated areas. They're used to provide multiple services. Multiple municipal advisory councils, shared services, those are governance options. County service area, community services districts, and incorporation. Those are all options that we talked to the group about. Again, the county's financial data was the baseline as you got to look at what's viable. We used the county's information. The base year that we used for development of our fiscal model was 2013-14. The model is built, though, so that you're able to update it with current information as you move these discussions along. Projections of future county revenues go all the way out to 2033, and that's because of Planning Area 8. That's the expectation of that. And then it identifies existing revenues that are not available to the city if you were to think about annexation. So that's a really important thing for the city.
Before you go off that point, if you could back it up, I had a question on that since you're on it. I noticed that if you looked at Planning Area 8, I'm just throwing out numbers, you don't have to agree with me or not, but there's roughly $656,000 that'd be non-transferable.
Yes.
Page 45. Is that a new policy that the county is operating under, or is that something that's always existed?
It's always existed. So with the county, they would still continue to provide regional services, your courts, social services.
So that's not new fees, that's
So
existing fees.
it's not new, and then there's also property tax in lieu fee, where the county receives a portion of that in exchange for the vehicle license fee. That's not transferable.
Okay, great.
It's important that you understand that this is a snapshot in time. So for that base year that I mentioned, it is actually a snapshot. So you don't see things like increased inflation, assumed growth rate, things like that. So it is an actual snapshot. Any governance option, whether it's annexation or incorporation, would require additional fiscal analysis. What's viable now, and this is based on LAFCO's observations and through our experience. What is viable now? Of course, maintenance corporations, we know that those exist, so, short and long term, those are still viable. When we say determining variables, even though we've identified them as viable in the short or long term, we recognize that certain factors come into play that will make that work. So once you get past those, that would make it viable. Municipal advisory councils and shared services, those are arrangements that are outside of actual boundary changes. From each groups, we heard an interest in working directly with the county, absent an annexation happening, to really enhance service levels for things like planning, fire services, but those, again, do not require a change in the boundary. And you can see there what the determining variables are, which is community support and county support. Annexation, which may be of particular interest to the city at some point and maybe not. But we see that as in the short and mid and long term as being viable, all subject to negotiations. We recognize that annexations are on a case-by-case basis. If the city needs to remain whole, and I'm sure that would be your goal, then an annexation would definitely be subject to negotiations. So it's viable, yes, from LAFCO's perspective, but again, based on negotiations you would have with the county and, of course, involving the developer and any fees.
Before you move from this one, I noticed the annexation, yes, with an asterisk, is in the timeframe 2014 to 2018. Is that the timeframe we have to initiate that discussion?
It is not. What we did in the packet and then also up on the screen, Mayor, is that we did 5-year timeframes. So for LAFCO's perspective, you're not boxed into those timeframes, but let's just say if the city wanted to start negotiations next week, or discussions at least, then we see that as viable within that timeframe.
And the, in parentheses there, may require voter approval. Would that be voter approval of the new area or voter approval of existing residents?
It is voter approval of the new area, within the annexation area.
So in theory, if we start discussions before, voter approval would be, anybody who lives here can vote. Oh, nobody lives here, okay, it's passed. Got it.
That's right. It's uninhabited now, of course. Yeah.
That's where I was going with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Melrose are done the same way.
So it's not
It's a very
subject.
fair process.
Yeah. It doesn't require the residents of San Clemente to vote on it, but certainly if it were inhabited,
Yeah.
the registered voters are landowners within that area. County service areas, community services districts and incorporation, those are the more complex changes. And you see, for county service area, which is, could be initiated by the County Board of Supervisors or the registered voters and landowners within the area. We did say that those could potentially be viable in the long and the short and the long term. Community services districts and incorporation, there are some significant obstacles to that. Mainly property tax revenue and any other revenues that would be available for the formation of either of those. And we know that there are some challenges with the state funding or lack thereof. So again, we look at those as not in the short term, potentially for the mid or long term for CSDs, but definitely incorporation we see as kind of a farther out change of organization. Key opportunities to success of future governance is the state restoration of VLF for the viability of incorporations and annexations. That funding is not available today, so it is an obstacle for any city looking at annexation or any area that's looking at incorporating. Support from the city and the community. That's needed. LAFCO cannot initiate annexations or incorporations, so you need the parties that would be changing their boundaries or forming a new one or forming a new agency. You need that support. And obviously support from the County Board of Supervisors, because I've already mentioned negotiations are a huge part of that. And then obviously any jurisdictional changes require LAFCO approval. So here's where we could use the feedback from the city of San Clemente. I know we have shared this information with your staff. Again, one of the things I mentioned is that we will be preparing a report for our commission. And so what we have prepared are specific questions that we think would be very useful and helpful, that the commission understand what the city's position is, and whether it's kind of a short-term position or long-term or more general. We really think these questions would be helpful for us as we begin to prepare our report. What specific services would you want to address? This was more for the unincorporated areas, but all of these questions were distributed to each stakeholder group member. What additional information or data do you want from LAFCO? You've got a packet before you this morning. Is there any additional information that LAFCO could provide as you think about any of these governance options. If it's annexation, is there additional information LAFCO can provide to you? Do you have any service needs, or in the case of the city, any governance issues that you want us to raise in the report that we prepare for the commission? What are the impacts to the city as far as the developing ranch plan? Now, we know that there's a development agreement in place and there's an EIR adopted, so not much LAFCO can do to change that, but nevertheless, if there's some issues that the city would like for LAFCO to include in the report, we certainly want to bring that forward and highlight that. Yeah, I'm close.
I'm sorry, I got one question, though, right while we're on that subject, though. I look to LAFCO as the experts in this, so I'd be looking for you for best practices. And if I gave you a list of questions, and I left something out that was very important, I would be counting on you to say, oh, you might want to think about this, and maybe that's a better option here. I hope we're on the same page with that.
Yes, and the dialogue remains open, even though we've concluded the stakeholder group meetings, the dialogue remains open, and I think this is the beginning, council member, and so this is prompting some thoughts for the council.
I have, I'm sorry, why don't we finish the questions then? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what other questions can LAFCO do to assist? What questions, issues, and opportunities do you want identified through the governance envisioning process? And what other comments do you have? But again, this is the beginning of the dialogue and discussions as we begin to prepare the report. The current milestones for this process, as we're receiving feedback from you, as well as other stakeholders, we're hoping to get that by October. So again, we can start that discussion and continue that discussion over the next couple of months. And then preparation of the report to Orange County LAFCO, our commission, is expected in December. It's not etched in stone, though. We want to make sure that the commission, what is really important is that the commission receive full information and feedback from each of the agencies. So the next steps, engaging stakeholders. We're going to work with the stakeholders, any stakeholders that want to implement any short-term governance options. Again, these are general questions and next steps that we've given to both groups. So we have some communities that want to move forward with exploring different things that we've talked to already. And then we want to engage and inform, which is why we're here tonight, any local and regional agencies and the business community as well on the ongoing efforts in the area. And there's my contact information, and I neglected to introduce Ben Legband, who is the project manager for this and has been very involved and is responsible for the document, the very thorough, complete document you have before you this morning. And I'm glad to answer, happy to answer any questions.
So my take on this is when I look at, for San Clemente's purposes, I think probably the question that's most prominent on our council is planning area 8. It seems in terms of proximity and connection to be the most logical component that San Clemente would potentially look at a governance model of either, bringing it in or having some collaborative agreement with it, even if it's unincorporated county. The question I have is when you look at the development in that area, I guess there would be two ways that happens. One is which Rancho develops, they go through it, they get towards the finish line, they say, we're ready to hand this over and have this be part of your city. In that scenario, where I see all sorts of problems in terms of, public safety considerations, codes, other things that we're going to, all of a sudden, we're going to bring in this entire area that has completely different code requirements than what we're used to in terms of sprinklers, in terms of all sorts of items. Or getting more ahead of this by starting 5 to 10 years out and saying, is this what we want to do? If this is what we want to do, then let's bring our codes, our requirements, everything to bear, and so that whatever the plan is, that it's done in coordination with and public safety considerations and fire stations and all this would be coordinated. So out of those two models, this first one seems more probable, which is we're going to do what we need to do. If you guys want it, you want it. If you don't, you don't. But am I wrong on that? What's the best way to do it?
That's exactly the purpose and the reason why the commission wanted to start the visioning process, because as the ranch plan has been developing, one of the thoughts has been, well, annexation may not happen next year, but if we get ahead of it and at least provide the forum where the cities can talk with the county and the developer in a collaborative way and say, we want to prepare and anticipate that we will annex it. Here's what we need to address. I think the difficulty is not knowing the right time to do that. And I think LAFCO, as the council member mentioned, he'd be looking to us to give you some guidance on that. One of the things I think that this process affords the opportunity is to keep those discussions going, to keep the cities engaged and connected with the county and the developer who was a participant of the process, because as we talk about annexation, this certainly isn't happening in the order that LAFCO would prefer, which is to develop and then annex. It's very difficult when that happens, but nevertheless, the train has left the station. But still, there is the opportunity to have those discussions if the city were interested, to really get everyone together. And I think that's where LAFCO has added value to the process. We facilitated those discussions before.
Thank you. I think that's an excellent answer. One thing I would request then is I would love to see a playbook where a city would say, if you wanted to do this, here is the playbook to do so. Here is the way to do this in a best practices point of view.
Sure.
So that we would know, hey, listen, about 6 years out, we need to engage with Ranch, start talking about the code requirements, and here's the playbook. And at some point, if it's not working, then you could disengage, they proceed, we proceed, and all bets are off.
Sure.
But I'd love to have some model that we could follow, or that we could at least plan on following, so that we know at some point we need to start talking and come to some agreement or not, and then we can plan accordingly. Because
Yes.
what I'd hate to do is to have the ranch walk all the way down this and say, now we're ready to talk. And it's like, what are we going to talk about? You've already finished your plan. There's too much impact. We don't want you now, and now we're going to have to talk about roads and public safety. So
Yes.
I would love to see that playbook put in place where we could almost script out what an annexation would look like, or if it wasn't scripted out, that we would figure out what our agreements would be to coexist.
Yeah, and I think that's, Councilmember Brown, that's exactly what we're looking for in terms of feedback from the city, what you're giving me tonight, because I think as we start to shape our report, it would be important to really capture that in some way and say, working with the city of San Clemente, we will continue to engage them and outline for them from LAFCO's experience and expertise what that playbook would look like. Here's the time frame where we suggest, based on what we know with the ranch developing Planning Area 8, kind of a timeline here of how we need to stay engaged, and at what point then do we start to really outline some type of agreement that works for all parties.
Tim, if I could comment for a second on what you said there. Option one, which is develop and then annex, is something that we've already experienced in this community, and I think we experienced tremendous growth pains in doing that, and so I'd like to see us go down a different avenue, which would be annexation first and then build. And so that way, as we build, we can account for the growth that we're seeing as opposed to the opposite. So I'm hoping that with direction from council, we can enter these discussions sooner than later. I would hate to wait till 5 years out and then we make the same mistakes we made last time.
I think we would have to declare an interest in that and then begin the negotiations. One of the things I would hate to do is to become so unwieldy that ultimately the ranch is like, we don't even want to deal with you. We're just going to do what we're going to do, and you guys do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So I think there's a meeting in the middle there where we provide standards and what expectations and ideas, and then we collaborate and negotiate to an outcome, as opposed to here's our rules, you want to be part of us, or ranch saying, well, here's our development, you want to take it.
Yeah.
That we find a way to work collaboratively to an outcome that, because if we're going to annex the city, wouldn't we like it to look and feel like San Clemente, as opposed to a part of Rancho Mission Viejo that has become, and so that would be the hope. That's my feedback.
Yeah, and I think it's certainly no secret that the ranch has concerns, because they want to be able to have a development agreement with the county. So there's always concerns as you talk about annexation, because they want an agency to change the plan. So they've been very upfront as part of this process with their concern about that and their apprehension started to talk about annexation. But nevertheless, they've been a collaborative partner in this process. So I certainly want to acknowledge that, but certainly acknowledge they've got some serious concerns about annexation.
Okay. I'm going to come at it from a little different direction, which is I'm not sure bigger is better. Area 8 is 4,166 potential new residents of San Clemente, or about 8% of our population. And I'm not sure getting big just because we can is, the only answer. And so in that spirit, I would like to know your recommendations on how we bring the public into your definition of stakeholder in terms of our San Clemente residents, in terms of what the next couple of years might look like in terms of community engagement panels, brainstorming, some of the things Councilmember Brown was talking about. What should it look like if it was decided that adding another 4,000 folks to town is the right thing to do? Right. So, and beginning with, I'd like to ask our city to make sure we have a link to the presentation council members got on the homepage, and that we make a pointed effort to let the community know that this conversation is going on. For example, I didn't know that Area 8 was going to include a resort hotel. And I don't know how, as a community, that works or doesn't work for us, but I'd like to get our community involved sooner rather than later. So that's number one. Number two, I hear that annexation feels right because we did it with Talega. I would like to know as a next step what a community can do that chooses not to annex but recognizes that the people, those 4,000 people, are going to be potentially using our police services, our fire emergency services, our roads to get to the freeway, potentially our schools, and how a city comes to the table to negotiate to make sure that the things our residents are paying for are protected in the face of that growth. So that's a definite, it's annexation one bucket, partnering a second bucket. And I couldn't find it. First I thought it was going to be the Community Development Services Fund kind of a thing, but that doesn't sound like it is.
Yeah.
And then finally, and you alluded to it, very interested in how South County transportation is going to look. And it was our mayor who was talking recently about what happens if we could take La Pata down to the Christianitos intersection. I'd like that request to be seriously looked at by LAFCO, because I think it's a key missing piece in the circulation plan, and this is a perfect area to have the conversation about that piece of connectivity. And then over and above that, if there's any recommendations you have for our city of San Clemente to be a voice with SCAG, please let us know if we need to pick one of us who's going to be a SCAG advocate. But it sounds like, reading again your report, which I thought was excellent, that's a place where San Clemente should be stepping up in the next 10 years.
All good feedback, hon. I know Ben's taking copious notes back there. A couple of responses I'll say. LAFCO will often go out and say, incorporation or annexation, not incorporation, but annexation, yeah, it makes sense. That's kind of what we do. But for the city, there are consequences to that. You have your residents that have concerns about you adding 4,100 residents. From my experience, what I would suggest, and glad to hear that you would like kind of the playbook, because I think LAFCO can help you kind of shape some timelines there. But I think it is important that you engage your community, because while the annexation area would be those residents would only those residents only would have the opportunity to protest any annexation. That's if it's inhabited or the landowner. But still, you hear from your residents. So, I would just suggest as part of that playbook and process, certainly that you are engaging them, because at the end of the day, it does take either the city to initiate a resolution to annex, and I would just expect as part of your process, you would hear then from your residents, and they would give you some indication and assist you with your decision to do so or to not do so.
And what would be the name of this idea of partnering but not annexing? What would, in your menu of ways that we can coexist? Well, they can do whatever they want. They can become a city or whatever, but the fact remains they're going to be using our roads.
I think it'd be very similar to Calhoun Heights and Tustin. It's just unincorporated county with services by the county, but they would use all of Tustin's roads and facilities.
And they don't pay anything into Tustin.
Nope.
So there is no
Yeah,
mechanism.
So that's your other question. I mean, it's unincorporated, managed by the, and governed by the county. So in terms of, paying additional fees for using the city's roads and all of that, you can certainly talk with the county about that, but it's unincorporated. And that's why LAFCO feels like it's so important that the city be at the table, and we start to talk through those things, because we've heard it all before.
Yeah, that's why annexation is one of those, like Cowan Heights, for example. That's the biggest, I lived in Cowan Heights when I first moved to California. I thought, this is a weird place. It's like this island in the middle.
They don't want to annex.
They don't want to annex, right? But one of the biggest challenges, ultimately, you get a lot of resentment.
They should have taken a vote before the people moved in.
Yeah,
to be clear on that.
between those communities, and we don't want to get to the point where, so it's important with our playbook, does the residents want it? At least we have a clear view of it, and we've said no, and note all the impacts and the benefits thereof,
Well, and then my final question, it was sort of a joke about who's going to vote in the area that has no people, but is there a place where our residents would vote on an annexation?
No, their voice would be heard before you. For the LAFCO annexation, it would only be any
So
residents,
it's the
if there are any
decision makers,
residents.
it's not
Yeah.
by popular?
It's in the area, and the landowner, let's not forget that.
Could we do an advisory vote if we wanted? If we,
I'm not sure I understand the advisory vote, meaning the city, if you...
I think if we decided we wanted to,
You-
we could.
yeah, you
okay,
decide,
'cause
yeah.
I guess what's very important to me, I began with it and I'll end with it, is I want to make sure we have our fingers on the pulse of the community. And so, and what typically happens is the same 15 or 20 people show up at community workshops or bother to take the time to write the email. But this will be a decision that affects 63,000 people. So I just want to figure out how we harness that.
Is there, for you and Tim both, is there an option where we don't annex and we bury our head in the sand and then that just doesn't happen? They don't drive through San Clemente to get to the freeway? Because there is going to be no other access. Just to be clear, I mean, if I bury my head in the sand, does this not happen?
I have to be completely candid. I think where planning area 8 is located,
Yeah.
we will be impacted. It's not a question if we'll
Exactly.
be impacted, it's how much we'll be impacted, and then how much, if we'll get enough benefit through annexation to be able to offset or shape said impacts so that it's not so bad, or that we'll be able to at least have enough benefit that it offsets the impacts. Ultimately, maybe there'll be some amenities, things they provide to San Clemente that we'll benefit from. But this is part of the conversation in the playbook that we would end up deriving as part of the, as part of this walk down, because ultimately, the ranch wants it to be a successful development, and we want it to be a successful development, because we don't want it to be a drain on us, and so, how do we get there? Is it better for it to be part of San Clemente? Is there any prestige in being part of San Clemente that will help with the development? That's part of the question, too. So that's why I like the idea of a playbook, because we at least have this and say, do we, as a city, want to even do this? And if we don't, then how do we work with the ranch to ensure the impacts are minimized?
Gotcha. Okay.
Do you have some?
I got a couple things, but I'll go last. That's fine.
One of the concerns I have is with Rancho Mission Viejo, I understand there's some flexibility with Area 8, where they might not build some units in Area 4 and build more in Area 8. So how can we as a city know what's going to happen with that, or tell our people what the impact's going to be if we really don't know what's going to get built in Area 8? So can expand on that.
Councilmember Ward, that's a very good question, and I'll be candid with you. The development agreement, if you look at the development agreement, there's some flexibility there. The ranch has been upfront, especially as we begin to develop that model, with stating that they're not tied to any of those planning areas because of the market, and the adjustments. So that does exist, and I agree, it is a difficulty that we're dealing with, because this area is developing, and it's developing in phases, it's developing in the county, and it is a very long process. We're looking at 2033 for planning area 8. I think probably the best that we can do as part of this process in developing this playbook is to really work within a time frame. But I agree with you that adds a level of difficulty to it, because it can be adjusted. And a resort is in that area. But at the end of the day, the ranch does have that flexibility. So it makes it tough.
That's something we have to consider, but I think communication is going to be like the biggest issue here, and I would think that the developer is going to be very communicative on that. I mean, they need to really tell us what's going on. I don't know how we can plan 2 or 3 years out if we really don't know what they're going to do. So I just wanted to bring that up, because I learned that a couple of years ago, that they are flexible. It's not set how many units they're exactly going to build there. So we don't really know what it's going to be. So that's my concern. You know, if you communicate that,
So
we really
noted.
need to know.
It's our concern too,
Okay.
and
No, I
with the
understand it's
difficulty
making it
we had
hard.
with the model.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Bob?
No, I thought Ms. Emery was pretty right on when she said plenty area 8 is out there. She meant, I think, maybe geographically and chronologically at the same time there. That's all.
Okay, I have a couple issues that I wanted to raise. The first one is, could we get a more detailed description of some of the things you're talking about, like a resort? Because I noticed that was one of the things that I underlined here was a rather large transient occupancy tax, and I thought to myself, well, that's interesting. How are you going to get that out of 4,100 residents? And I found out today from the city manager that there is, in fact, a resort planned out there. So if we can get some more concrete information on what is proposed, what is possible, what is allowable in planning area 8,
Sure.
that'd be great, as opposed to just a one-page spread, which we have here, which was done very nicely, as Lori pointed out. Yeah, how many rounds of golf are we gonna get to play? Because we don't have enough golf courses in San Clemente as it stands right now. We need another one. So, my other concern is public safety, and I know this has nothing to do with your realm, but I know how unincorporated areas in other parts of the county work with, in terms of the sheriff's department and the fire authority, and you may or may not have a fire station, and 99% of the time you don't have a sheriff's substation, and so when you have an emergency call, they rely on the neighboring jurisdictions to provide that service.
Mutual aid.
And much like when we built Talega and then later annexed it, we did not get an increase in public service or public safety from that development. So I, for one, am looking forward to having a discussion about annexation in the near future, not in the distant one. So that's one of my very serious concerns. How are you guys planning on addressing that? Whether we do annex or don't annex? How are you looking into that?
Yeah.
And the last one is more of a comment as opposed to concern, but it made me smile, and I thought I'd just read this little section on page 18 for you here. So this is something I've been pushing for a while. I'll read the sentence, and Carolyn, just bear with me for a minute here. It's the renewed development of Rancho Mission Viejo planning areas has spurred discussion about the extension of the 241 South, as I call it, the Kings Highway, either as a toll road or an arterial extension. And I can't express my support for an arterial extension enough. I think that's a great way to do it. I think if we put the fees of development on the developers to actually build the infrastructure required to develop, 70,000 residents and umpteen number of commercial space, I think it's on them to develop the infrastructure as well, and not on people like Bob Baker and his beautiful car to be paying for it. So, yeah, I was happy that you put that in there, and thank you very much. And
We
hopefully
thought
someone
that
else
was,
will
we
get
thought
to.
that was important. It did come up with the group. It's not LAFCO's wheelhouse.
Yeah,
but-
obviously.
But transportation, circulation, which was discussed in the EIR approved by the county, it was so noted as part of this process, and we thought it was important at least to talk about it here, and we couldn't ignore it.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, it was a
we
great
did.
comment. I
Yeah.
appreciated it. So.
Sure.
Anything else?
Thank you for an
Did you see
excellent
the,
presentation.
did you see the
I
part
do
about the
have-
241 anyone, San Juan campus? and-
I'd like to add
General
one more
campus
thing to
down
our
at the
wish
I-5.
list. If you could give us a map of how the hospitals with emergency rooms are going to be by 2040.
Sure, I think we can give that a
Because
shot.
with the 14,000 homes going in at Rancho Mission Viejo, and with our little piece of it, Area 8 potentially, be interesting to see how the emergency services, medical emergency rooms are going to be situated in South County.
I can answer that one. Professionals say we don't need emergency rooms in South County, so there you go. But anyway, that was a joke. I was being facetious. Thank you very much.
Thank
It was
you.
a fantastic report. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
James, who's our lead on this now? Is Cecilia our lead? Yes.
Thanks for driving all the way to San Clemente tonight, by the way. I appreciate it. That was good.
Next is presentation by City Planner Petchis concerning the Pier Bowl train station.
Oh, what'd I do? Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Jim Petchis, City Planner. And I'm going to go through a presentation on the Pier Bowl train station, a little bit of background.
Before you jump in this, Jim, can I just mention that I saw you cracking up back there when I mentioned the have a vote of the people and there's no one that lives there. You're laughing at the Melrose thing we went to 6 months ago, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Just for people out there who don't come to every council meeting because you have better things to do with your Tuesday night, we did a vote for the Melrose on Marblehead development. And the comical part about it was we did it before they built any homes. So that way there is actually no one to vote. So the vote goes in your favor regardless of what happens. Just like if we annex Planning Area 8, we would do it before any development. So the vote would essentially be a registered vote of 0, or 1, I think was the case. Property owner has a vote. Yeah, exactly. So thanks for laughing at that. I appreciate it.
Anyway, this is just a exhibit of we have 2 train stations in town, which is fairly unique in Orange County. There's a couple other cities that have that, but we're one of the few. They're about a mile apart, one in North Beach and one in the Pier Bowl. And we're going to focus on the train station in the Pier Bowl. And this is report is basically based on the council direction to get a little bit more information about the history and some of the kind of the pluses and minuses of having 2 stations. For those of you that don't know, originally only Hanson built the train station in the North Beach area. This is a picture of it. I remember in GPAC, I think Kenny Nielsen was saying that back in the day, they used to have like a bucket with a stick with a flag on it, and you would raise the flag, and then that's how they knew to stop in San Clemente to pick people up. Sometime in the 60s, I don't know exactly the date, but from my history here and what I remember is in the Pier Bowl, there was basically a cinder block 3-sided building, which was what we called our train station, and that kind of somewhat famous San Clemente sign for the stop. And that's how it existed for years and years and years. And then in 1995, there was I think a countywide movement through OCTA to develop more train stations in Orange County. And we received a grant to build the North Beach train station, and that was developed and completed, and the grand opening was in 1995. And then about that same time, a number of the merchants in the Pier Bowl area and in the downtown were concerned about the loss of pedestrian traffic in the Pier Bowl area and in downtown. And so they initiated some processes with OCTA and some people out in Riverside to do the first beach trains, and they started that as an experiment, I think in 1997. And they had volunteers out there with kind of, when the train stopped, they had, the wooden stair steps, and then people would get down, and then that turned out to be pretty successful. So the council initiated a process to build in partnership with the community, build basically a platform in the Pier Bowl area, and that's how it was developed with a group of business owners to help finance that. And in 1998, that's when we actually opened that station and entered into a lease agreement with with OCTA for the maintenance of that station. Currently, as I said, there's 2 stops in the Pier Bowl. We have Metrolink, which my understanding is, I think there's 5. I'm sorry. Metrolink has the 4 stops in the summertime for the beach train, and then Amtrak has 5 stops a day at the Pier Bowl in the summertime. I don't know if it changes in the winter or not, but we're just getting this off the Metrolink website. And Metrolink provides 6 stops a day for the commuter train station, both 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon in the North Beach area, and that's during the weekdays. So some of the things that we were looking at was several of the things to ponder, I guess, or consider in whether to consolidate the train stops or not is we talked to OCTA about what they thought of it. They're basically against the removal of the Pier Bowl train station, and they feel it's a very popular spot. I know that they use it in a lot of their promotional brochures. Both Metrolink and Amtrak do that, and they had been in the process of doing a number of improvements to the Pier Bowl train stop with some lighting and other enhancements for safety. Also, just as I mentioned, OCTA owns both the platform and the right-of-way where the train station is. The city has an existing lease agreement with them to do the maintenance of it. It's a 30-day agreement where either party can cancel. Ultimately, though, OCTA holds the cards of whether the service continues or doesn't continue. And I think we don't really have enough research to understand whether the city has much say-so on whether they were to move the location, all the operations to North Beach. OCTA has also had a long history of partnership with the city, and we enjoy a great relationship with them. Certainly, they were instrumental in the work with the quiet zone and the development of the beach trail. So one of the considerations is maintaining a great partnership with them. Another consideration is that knowing that if we were to remove either of the train stations or even change operations there, the Coastal Commission would be involved in requiring amendments to coastal development permits to allow those changes. And just in general, the Coastal Commission is all about access to the beach, and so their philosophy is the more access, the better. Another consideration is that there's a number of goals and policies in both our general plan and the Pier Bowl specific plan that support commuter rail at both locations and the improvement and expansion of commuter rail, or just rail service in general. Fourth is the local businesses are very much in support of the North Beach, the Pier Bowl train station, and have expressed some concerns about that elimination, as I think most of you have seen some of the letters in that regard. Also, the consideration is that if we were to consolidate, there's a potential benefit to the North Beach area, assuming that the current stops at the North Beach or the Pier Bowl area would be moved to North Beach, so that if Amtrak and the Metrolink move those additional services to North Beach with all the foreseeable or future improvements as entertainment area in North Beach, that could be clearly a benefit to the businesses down there and some of the goals for that area. And then finally, there has been an issue with a number of community members. Actually, I have an anecdotal personal experience with this one time. But there's 2 train stations in San Clemente. I was supposed to pick someone up at the San Clemente train station, so naturally I go to North Beach. And they weren't there, and then I go, oh, shoot. And they must have meant San Juan Capistrano, so I ran up to San Juan, and they weren't there either, and it turned out they went to the Pier Bowl. But anyway, I learned my lesson and never did that again. So anyway, that's just basically the report. We attached the information on the policies and the lease agreement in the report. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Question, Jim, one of the things I read in the articles is that one of the justifications for the beach train was income to the city, additional revenue. For example, in one of the articles it said an informal survey, this is in 1996, says an informal survey found the passengers spend an average of $54 each during a day at the beach. At 1,200 passengers train, that means each run has potential to boost local business by $64,000 a day. Has that been part of the conversation, or any metrics in terms of revenue to the city? That seems insanely far-fetched even for today's figures. And so I just wonder I mean, obviously by the Transportation Agency, Coastal Commission, they're not at all interested in the revenue generating components of it. But I wondered if we had an opinion about how much revenue it generates in the city.
I've asked representatives from the DBA and the OCTA if they had any updated numbers on what the economic impact was to the city, and they weren't able to provide any. We talked about ridership and the number of people that are visiting San Clemente based on their surveys. Out of the 110,000 beach tickets that are sold on an annual basis, about 65% of the tickets bought are being used to come to San Clemente. But as far as a dollar amount and what that means to the city, that hasn't been determined.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for staff? So,
I have a quick one.
Actually, could I just put up the slide, because this all started with confusion about how to get tickets. I did get an update from Metrolink on where they are with handheld apps, and I just wanted to share that out. So Amtrak is ahead of the curve compared to Metrolink, but Metrolink has a plan in place called the Just Ride, and it's a 3-phase rollout. In May, they started testing a handheld that the conductor would hold to scan paper tickets with QR codes on it. So that test is going on, and that's improved a lot of the people that get on the train and don't buy a ticket and somehow escape the attention of the conductor. So that's phase 1. Phase 2, which they're looking at in testing in county in first quarter 2016, is a mobile ticket app, and the demo or the visual on the left is by a company called Masabi, and it would be basically, that's kind of the look of what you'd have on your smartphone. And the third then would be at Union Station in 2016. They're going to be putting in gate readers so that you can just swipe your phone and get on the train going through a turnstile. And so the definition of success is options for riders. So we certainly need to pay attention to that ticket kiosk at Pier Bowl if we end up with a train at Pier Bowl. Also improved validation, which helps with the revenue stream that the train system needs. And also regional integration, so some of this confusion of, oh, do I need an Amtrak or do I need a Metrolink, will be resolved through the app.
So this app is available now, or it's not?
No, it's
Okay.
not. It's in, it's upstream in testing, but it's in the design phase. The website has to be set up, the e-currency, the e-commerce piece of it in terms of capturing your money to buy the tickets needs to be put in place, and then also there's a few little privacy issues.
Gotcha.
Okay, it's a little out of order, but since you're talking about that, I just want to ask this question. When are they going to replace the vending ticket machines? Because in April of 2015, Metrolink put out a press release that they had just completed upgrading their central processing unit, and their entire fleet of ticket machines, but it didn't completely solve all the mechanical problems. So they said they're now actively pursuing an effort for new ticket vending machines in conjunction with the mobile app. So
Yeah,
I think
yes, and
we're
that's
gonna
an
have to get to
excellent.
that.
That's an excellent question, and that's why I put the goals up there. It's options. It's not like the whole world is going to take a wholesale conversion over to a paperless ticket. But we need to look at that, and in South County, Laguna Niguel has problems, San Juan Capistrano has problems. So that is on their list for upgrades.
Okay, I have a question for Jim on the lighting. On the lighting for the pier area. That's going to be definitely coming to staff and be designed with our general plan, dark skies, and our design guidelines for the Pier Bowl area?
Yes.
Okay. So they're not unilaterally.
It'll go through a discretionary permit process to ensure all that happens.
Okay, I want to check on that.
No other questions for staff? So before we go to spirit cards, I just figured I'd open this one up since I brought it up a couple meetings ago. So the first point is that this is a special presentation item. This isn't actually on the agenda, an actionable item. So this is just for discussion purposes only. And one of the things that I want to point out before we go on to discussion is that when this was implemented by a group of volunteers within the community to create, I think, some economic incentives for local business in the late 90s, our community was much different than it is today in terms of population, in terms of income and businesses, and I think it was probably a necessary tool to assist businesses in the downtown to stay afloat throughout the year in terms of income and revenue, and I think it was a great project, and I applaud Mr. Anderson and all the volunteers that made this happen. That being said, I think that now as a community we look towards making things better for the community and better for the residents. I think one of the things that we can take out of this, or one of the things that I hope to take out of this, actually 2 points, is the first one, the over-guiding principle, is that we can take this opportunity to make it better for residents of San Clemente, make it an asset for the community, make it an asset for the residents, make it something that we can all get behind and actually utilize as a true train stop, as opposed to a train ending in our community. So it'll be an opportunity for us to get on the train and transport residents to other parts of the community. And so with that, I have 2 goals in mind. The first goal is obviously to enter in discussions with Metrolink and Amtrak and get the kiosks fixed at the Pier Bowl, get the, and North Beach as well, get the ticker tape to read accurately what the kiosk says, and to hopefully get Amtrak and Metrolink phone operators on board with all 3 of those things, so we don't have differing information between all three of those. And then the second one is have direct staff to initiate discussions with OCTA, Amtrak, and Metrolink to make it more of a community serving asset as opposed to a visitor serving asset. And what I mean by that is I foresee, at least in the near future, two potential opportunities for that. And the first one is our neighbor in the north has a really large festival area, the Swallows Day Parade, which I think a lot of our residents partake in, which is very difficult to park, it's very difficult to get to. And in years past, I've tried to take the train to and from, and just by a quick analysis today, it said there was no available times to take the train on Swallows Day of next year, which I highly doubt. Looking at the weekend schedule for this weekend, a train comes once every 3 hours. That doesn't seem very convenient for the community to be able to take a train 5 minutes up the road. And hopefully create more affordable pricing on these special event days. And so I see hopefully in these discussions we can focus next year on the Swallows Day Parade, and then focus on our partner to the South San Diego with the Del Mar Racetrack Days. And hopefully we can encourage more train use, more ridership on those two big events in the year next year, and then move forward from there and make it so that we do use our two train stops in a beneficial factor for the community, as opposed to a draw on the resources that our community has and offers to other people. So with those two things being said, is there any opposition to that direction?
I would like to add to that direction.
Okay.
I think that we should ask for expanded service to North Beach in addition to that.
I think that's a great idea.
And we cannot get anyone to North Beach from San Diego without taking the Amtrak directly. They would have to take the coaster and change trains. So I think we are going to have more development in that area, and I see it as we shouldn't be discriminatory where people go, and North Beach should have just as much opportunity as the Pier. But I also want to see more communication with OCTA with what happens with Metrolink, because this train turned out to be such a huge hit that Metrolink used to be slow on the weekends, and then in 2008, they said they broke all ridership records in the summer. And it was significant increase, and I think that was the Orange County Inland Empire line that brought everyone in. And they added 117 new cars to pick up that demand, and those came online in 2010. There was no communication with our city that all those people were coming, and that all those, they added for the ridership. So I think we are supposed to be a partnership in this, and we're supposed to be receiving benefit from it. I would like to see better communication with what is coming and what their plans are. They should at least tell us what the impacts are going to be, that they're adding double deckers or whatever, that we're going to get a lot more people. But with North Beach, I'd like to see, I've heard that the kiosk is not working there, the ticket kiosk and the phone, and we've had people stuck there. So that is a good direction. But I just want to see Amtrak, it's a 3-minute train. Metrolink does it. They stop at North Beach and the Pier. It's a 3-minute difference, according to their records. So I don't see that that is a burden on Amtrak to do that. And I'd like to see that, because I think all of us would use it more if we had better connection.
Yeah.
So.
Building on your idea of a vision that makes it more community-serving, as you know, we've asked to put in an application for a trolley system, and one of the reasons I chose that visual with the bicycle on the Metrolink, wrapped Metrolink car, is the train is a really important part of being multimodal in terms of our transportation through the community and within the community. And next year, in my view, having a station at Pier Bowl and North Beach helps us with this notion of built-in demand for a trolley circulator. And so maybe you might want to add that to your direction in terms of make sure that the train plays an important part in any route that we might propose for a community-serving and visitor-serving, but mainly community-serving trolley.
Yeah. So any opposition to the general direction to direct staff to make it more of a resident-serving? Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and take some of these speaker cards. The first person is going to be Rick Anderson. Following Rick will be Brenda Foster and Jessica Swardowski. And Rick, before you start, I'm just going to lay down the ground rules for everyone, for the people that probably haven't spoken recently or before. We have a podium here we'd like you to step up to, and we have 3 minutes per speaker. We have 3 little lights here that make it very easy to tell where you're at in terms of time, and there's a timer right below it. We will stop you accordingly at 3 minutes so that everybody has an equal opportunity to speak on this topic. So, Rick, fire us off.
I just want to say I really like the direction that we're taking tonight. Of course, we were all concerned and a little panicked when we heard how this initially came out. But before I make a couple comments, I want you to know that Bob Novello wanted to be here tonight, but he's dealing with the Hurley Pro. And, of course, he's all behind anything we can do to continue the trains coming to the Pier Bowl. But along with that, I do appreciate the time I spent with you the other day and worked through our issues. And I really appreciate the tack that we're taking is to improve the station instead of abandon it. And that I'm really glad that we're getting the attention that we've been kind of asking for a while, because as we're all acutely aware of right now, it's not functioning properly, and it's been very dysfunctional and confusing for everyone. And a lot of people don't understand that Amtrak only stops at the pier, as we heard from Jim. So it's been a big mess. So it'll be really nice to get that thing online and move forward with it in a positive manner. The only thing that I would ask is that you consider the DBA and the Pier Bowl merchants and the rest of us as your stakeholders also. We're on ground zero down there. We have a pulse of it. I actually count people. I'm a tremendous asset, and as you alluded also, did build the thing and have a lot of history and knowledge of how the whole thing's evolved. And you were talking about increased ridership. One of the benefits was that equipment didn't work on the weekend because the commuter trains only worked 1 through 5, Monday through Friday. When we started the beach train approximately 20 years ago, that started utilizing that equipment on the weekends. So, and as you said, and we're proud of the fact that ridership has grown. And I also need to realize that it just doesn't come from San Bernardino and Rialto and Riverside. It stops in Irvine and San Juan, and people from Oceanside come up also. And originally, when we envisioned this, we had hoped that the coaster connection could make a connection in Oceanside and go on down to San Diego. That's just something that never came to fruition. And maybe in the course of all this, we can look at that again. But the bottom line is, let's work together. Let's solve these issues, and let's make this good for the community, and let's get this thing going. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rick. Brenda, Jessica, and then Brenda Miller. Was this, so Brenda Foster's first, then Brenda Miller be the, yeah, just to clarify.
Hi. Okay, my name is Brenda Foster, and this is my husband, Richard Foster. First of all, I want to let everyone know that we are residents and landlords in North Beach. And I also own a store on the second block of Del Mar, San Clemente Antiques. And the past 8 years, I have developed a relationship with my train customers, many of whom are repeat customers. Many have purchased furniture from my store and gone home, got their pickup truck, and the next few days came down and to pick up their item, and I'm sure had lunch on Del Mar. So I really truly know that I have a large clientele or customer base of the train customers. This weekend, I was talking to Karen, who owns Refines on the first block, and we both had the same group come into our store. There were like 18 women from a church group in that came to see us and visit us from Corona. I would say many customers that do come in on the train don't come just for the beach. They come to shop the ambiance of our Spanish village by the sea. And this morning, I had a really nice couple from LA that come here every 3 months. They usually stop at my store every time they come in to purchase. In fact, the gentleman talked to me about, we were talking about, he was buying a photo of Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. You're old enough to know who they are. I said, did you know that they didn't like each other? I know. Okay, I know. Anyway, I'm just saying that I have.
Actually, I'd like to know they really didn't like each other?
They didn't like each other, and he picked her because she was short. Rita Hayworth was a better dancer. Anyway, I've done petitions by residents, 180 of them, train patrons. I have over 180 residents who do not want to see the Pier train stop eliminated. So anyway, I can get more positions if necessary, but I'm glad to hear that hopefully we aren't going to lose our customers. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica, Brenda Miller, and then our favorite speaker, George.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jessica Swerdowski. I am the director at the DBA. After listening to you, Chris, on these proposed changes, I just want to let you guys know that the DBA is in full support of this. I know, being a frequent Swallows Day participant myself, I like to see that happen. And we just want to let you guys know that we're here to help you in anything that we can do to make these positive changes happen. So, thanks.
Did you just get married?
No,
Oh,
I am
okay.
having a baby though.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations. I knew there was something big going on. I just couldn't remember what it was. Hey, Brenda.
The other Brenda is here. So I'm really thrilled. It sounds like the direction of the conversation is shifting to more trains are better, and I totally agree with that. Especially, I would love to have Amtrak stop at both platforms regularly with the same frequency that they stop in San Juan Capistrano. I know I forego a lot of train travel because Amtrak has the schedule, even though they're 3 times the price to get to LA and back. At least you can take a train if you have one. So let's push for that. But I thought I'd just give you some qualitative impressions after I came home from Santa Ana a few weeks ago with my bike on the bike car. And the train was packed. It was weekend, it was early afternoon, and there was a father with a couple little girls. And he started getting ready to get off at the train at the Pier station. And I said, "Where are you from?" As it turns out, his 2 little girls are too young to need a ticket, so for $10 round trip, he's got his 2 little girls. He came from the Orange Station, and he said, "We do this every weekend. We come on the train for a couple of hours." They didn't have a lot of junk. They had a couple shovels, a couple plastic pails, and 1 towel. And they were there to enjoy our sandy beach, and then they go home without a car. Another family filled with bikes. They take the train from Irvine and come to San Clemente regularly, even though they live 20 minutes from the sand in Newport Beach. They choose to come by train with bikes to our beach instead of Newport, so they don't have to cruise for a longer period of time than the train ride just to find a parking space, and then they get dinged for all that money for parking. They're making that choice, and I think, you know, the sky's the limit. So we need to encourage this kind of thing. So I really support. I'm glad to hear that we're really thinking more multimodally. And I'm wondering if I forgot anything. Oh, and just, you know, since I'm sort of the idea person for transportation, so my long-range dream is more train access, and then we actually have a San Francisco-style streetcar that goes up and down Del Mar to the T-zone. It goes through Avenida Victoria, and then we also have another San Francisco streetcar that goes the length of El Camino Real. Those are economic stimulus packages that are revolutionizing and reinvigorating downtowns across the country. So thanks for listening.
Brenda, thank you. I'm pretty sure you stole one of those ideas from George Gregory, though, because he's going to say something really similar to that, I bet. Yeah, he's the idea guy. Don't be trying to steal his name.
Hello, George Gregory, North Beach. Who's talking about eliminating the train station at the pier? That's not really true. But let's face it is a seasonal need. It is a weekend need. The primary station really needs to be at North Beach to service our citizens, to get them to and fro, to keep them off that awful 5 freeway. Let's face it, the 5 freeway's been poorly planned. It's being poorly developed as we speak. Too little, too late. By putting the trains at North Beach, you wouldn't have to run down the beach to catch the other line. It just seems kind of silly. You get dropped off at the pier, now what do? You can't leave. There's no buses even there, not many. I think there's one. The bus lines are all at North Beach. The Metrolink's at North Beach. The Amtrak should go to North Beach. It should be our primary station. Let's face it, our beaches have eroded that's displaced our citizens off the beach. Now you drop a train full of people on the beach, what have you done? Displaced all of our citizens off the beach. During the prime time of summer, during the time that our families and our citizens want to use the best beach in town. So we really need to think about servicing the citizens first, and then the visitors. I'm not talking about eliminating the station, but we have an asset here, a community jewel that most communities would kill to have, is a commuter center, a hub, a staging area. So really give this deep consideration. Thank you very much.
Thanks, George. That was our last speaker card. Well, there we go. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening. And please stick around for the festivities. It's going to be quite exciting, I can assure you.
Members of the audience who wish to address council on matters that are within the jurisdiction of the City of San Clemente but not separately listed on the agenda may do so during the oral communications portion of the meeting. A total time limitation of 30 minutes is allocated for oral communications part 1, with each speaker being allotted 3 minutes in which to give his or her presentation. And I have one card.
Okey-doke. Oh, Sherry Murphy.
Honorable Mayor Ham, council members, city staff, and members of the community. My name is Sherry Murphy, and I'm the daughter of Max Berg. My father passed away peacefully and joyfully at the age of 90 and a half at home with family on September the 4th. He worked for the city of San Clemente from 1950 to 1985, with the majority of those years as city clerk. He spent many years and very long hours in this council chamber. My father was noted for his pleasant, friendly manner and helpfulness, and earned the reputation of being a veritable institution of City Hall, Mr. San Clemente, and Mr. Information. He holds a distinctive record of public service and was a model of a perfect public servant, and truly dedicated his life in helping to make San Clemente the town it is today. He was honored with many distinctions throughout his life, including the first resident to be chosen by the Chamber of Commerce in 1964 as Citizen of the Year. He has been recognized by the California City Clerks Association for his exemplary public service, and by the City of San Clemente as a Wall of Recognition recipient, and finally his greatest honor in the renaming of the city's oldest park to Max Berg Plaza Park. My father loved San Clemente, he loved this country, and he loved the American flag, and what it stands for. He was a proud World War II veteran, a genuinely kind person, a humble public servant, a loving father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. I'm very proud to be here representing the Berg family, and I want to thank the mayor and the city council in honoring my father by adjourning the meeting later this evening in his memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. You know, I had the honor of meeting Max twice this year, actually, and he was quite the character. That guy could wow a crowd at how, 92 years old? 90 and a half. I mean, it was quite impressive to see him speak, and he was quite a snazzy dresser. He was quite timeless in his dress, and he loved the ladies, that's for sure. The 2 times I saw him, that was the #1 thing he cared about. So, yeah, it'll be an honor to adjourn this evening in his honor, and it was an honor to meet him while he was still alive, and know that we bestowed upon him a great honor in renaming Max Berg Park after him.
And Sherry, I'd like to let you know, as a public servant, he was held to a high standard, and he seemed to consistently surpass the bar and set an example for all of us. But, to the mayor's point, the twinkle in his eye was always greatest when he was talking about his family. He was so proud of you guys, so he did good.
Well, I got a favorite memory of Max, and when we put the new playground equipment in at the park. I mean, the first guy down the sliding board was Max. That's pretty special. That's something I'll never forget. That was pretty cool.
Would you like to make any comments about if people wanted to make a donation or anything about how people could pay their respects?
Forgot about that. We're going to be doing a celebration of life for him on Sunday, October 18th at Maxburg Plaza Park from 2 to 4. We love for the council to come out, city staff, any community members that knew my dad or would just like to come get to know the family and what he was all about. And anyone can donate in lieu of flowers. We can donate to the San Clemente Historical Society in his name. And there's also a Desert Unlimited Wildlife nonprofit organization that can be donated to as well. So, thank you.
Could we have a motion to waive reading in full of all resolutions? And
So moved. Second. Motion by Brown, second by Ham. All's in favor? Aye. Opposed? Pass 5-0.
Closed session report, city attorney.
Mayor and Council, there's the following reportable action taken in closed session. With regard to item number A, a discussion about the case entitled Walker versus San Clemente, case number GO 50789. The council voted unanimously to authorize special counsel to petition the California Supreme Court for review of both elements of that decision. I wanted to note that my personal residence is on the list of properties affected by that decision, but I submitted a waiver of right to recover in that decision that would allow me to participate and sit with council during that closed session and other consultations on this matter.
Okay.
Okay. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion, unless council, staff, or the public requests removal of an item for separate discussion and action, and the public has requested the removal of item 6I and 6F.
Lori?
I'd also like to speak on 6F.
Tim?
Item F.
Okay. Kathy? Don't
I
say
also-
F. Don't say it.
I'm sorry. That was the only one I'm going to pull is F.
I have 3 circles around F now. I hope you guys are proud of yourselves. Bob, F?
I hope we're going to show the photos when we get to F, because the photos are terrific. But I would also like to pull B1 and B4. And also, just one comment about K, just for a second there.
Okay, and
You ready for a motion?
no. How am I missing this? Let me pull up my other agenda here. Hold on. No, we're good. Yeah, I'll take a motion.
Move the balance.
Second.
Motion by Doncheck, second by Brown. All's in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. And 6B1.
6B1, I am very encouraged at the zoning administrator. Jim, would you like to stand up and take a bow there? I'm very encouraged by your attention to detail at these zoning administration hearings. I really am. I think you're doing a great job there. I especially want to commend you for looking closely at these driveways around town, because it's a big issue, and it seems like it's getting bigger every year. So you paid a lot of attention to that, and I want to encourage you to continue to do that. And I would, before I move the item, I would like the council to possibly ask for some more ideas about some driveway issues around town. We do for non-conforming structures, we have a 50% rule in effect right now, where if you build less than 50%, you don't have to make your house conforming. We did that to keep houses smaller. It's been a benefit to the community. It's been a great thing. One of the kind of loopholes in it is that if you spend a lot of money on your house and you have a 2-foot driveway, you don't have to fix it. And that, to me, driveways it's the first thing you notice when you drive into a neighborhood are how many people are parked on the street and how many people are not parked in their driveways. So I would like us to take a look at that 50% rule and its relation to driveways as we're doing this zoning, or zoning rehash.
I would concur with that, but I think I would also add parking, not just driveway, but I guess that's what we are talking about is driveways. But it does bother me, Jim, because it kept coming up in design review, not design review, but planning commission meetings, that we had to approve something where someone was adding on because it was that 50% rule, and yet they weren't adding any more parking. And so we know that's impacting the streets. So that is one thing that I do want brought up, definitely brought up soon, because I think, you know, as people more and more buy smaller homes in these areas, they want to live by the beach, we know the streets are impacted. So in some way, I think we have to look at requirements for parking. We just have to. It's time. I think the tipping point, we've hit it.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
All right, with that, I'll move the item.
Well, neither of you actually, okay. So motion by Baker, second by Ward. All's in favor? Aye. And before we go on to item 6B4, Joanne, I made a mistake. Item J I was supposed to pull, and I missed it. So what's the appropriate action to take there?
I think you would vote to rescind that action.
Okay. So I move that we rescind item J. Second. Motion by Ham, second by Doncheck. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item 6B4. Bob, was that you as well?
Yeah, it is. And there's an awful lot of stuff going on at the Planning Commission. I want to thank them for their attention to detail in this. But there are a couple of things, and I hope we're going to get a little. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you. A little explanation on page 6B4-4 down at the bottom there. We have a resident and property owner that requested his property be zoned the same. I'd like to see some, can you explain that for us, Jim? Thank you.
Well, that item's going to be coming to you in October, and so we can clarify that particular thing. It's a little bit complicated to do without slides and showing you.
Good. All right, good.
So I'll make sure that we point it out in the presentation.
Wonderful. All right, now on the next page, these are all proposed amendments from the Planning Commission. They went through them very comprehensively. There's one in here, number 4 down there, that talks about changing the, allowing the FAR to be reduced from 0.5 to 0.35, measured based on project lot area for the entire commercial site plan of Plaza San Clemente. Jim, would you explain why that was done?
It was 400 pages of amendments.
Oh, wonderful.
Especially without the information in front of me.
Well, to me, the big deal is we've changed FAR to go to the,
most of those were clarifications where there was maybe some changes in the, is this the general plan or the zoning ordinance?
General plan amendment.
Yeah, most of those were just changes because the lines were drawn in the wrong place, and it was just correcting unintended mistakes.
I see that, but this one doesn't seem to fall in that category for me. The FAR reduced from 0.5 to 0.35, measured based on the project lot area for the anti-commercial site plan, rather than the individual lot of the site plan. To me, if you have a big shopping center, I mean, you can, 0.35, you know, you can build anything. I mean, it's, if the site plan is, 10 acres, you can build 3.5 acres of stuff. So I need to know why we're doing that before I think that's okay.
Well, they're going the other way. They're going larger to smaller.
Well, but I get that, but the point is, we're now measuring it not on the individual lot, but on the entire project of the whole center. So if the whole center encompasses 5 different buildings, you shouldn't be able to base your FAR for one building on the entire size of the shopping center,
See,
should you?
I'm reading it differently than that.
Oh.
And I'm reading it as.
That's why I wanted to get Jim's.
Yeah.
So again, without the information in front of me, I'm not really clear on what the area is that we're talking about, so I can't answer it. What I will do, though, is go back and I'll send out an explanation to the city council of that particular item that's being changed so you understand it.
The way I read that, Bob, and just for clarify, because I'm glad you brought it up, is if you have a specific lot, you have the ability to go 0.5, if it's a smaller lot. But if someone comes in and purchases 3 large lots and say, I want to do 0.5 on all 3 of these lots combined, the city's going to go, well, wait a second. The reason we have 0.5 is if you're doing an individual project, not taking 3 lots, putting them together, and then now you can go 0.5 on that large area. That's the way I saw it. So you can have infill projects that are that size, but you're not going to get a large construction project that's going to be that big, essentially. That's the way I read it to it, so.
All right, well, I'm going to move the item, and Mr. Petrus will
And again,
give us an
you guys are gonna
explanation.
review all this,
We'll see what it is.
item by item, so we'll make sure we clarify
Great.
that. I'll get you a clarification before that, though.
All right, and one more point in this on 6B 4-10. Planning Commission has suggested that the City Council consider revising height limits on the east side of South El Camino Real and ensure maintenance of tree heights to preserve views from the freeway. When are we going to discuss that, Jim?
When we come back, again, in the latest rounds of amendments, we were looking at the other side of the road.
Right.
And one of the things that the Planning Commission noted was that on the side where the Ralph's is, and the Ralph's Tower, the height limit there is 45 feet. And so they said that we made a recommendation to the city council that we look at lowering that height to ensure that you don't have another Ralph's Tower that blocks views along the freeway.
Okay. Well,
So we'll bring that to you as an option when we review that with the round of amendments that are going forward.
oh, good, because I think that's a valuable issue that we need to speak about, certainly.
So we don't have to initiate that zoning amendment, direct it to you?
No, we'll bring it to you as an option as part of the amendment.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have in there, and with that, I'll move the item.
Second.
Motion by Baker, second by Ward. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item 6F. That was, 4Fs. So let's hear from, I'd like to hear from the audience first, and then we'll listen to others' concerns. Larry, step on up to the podium, sir. Good to see you.
Thank you. Larry Culbertson, resident. I've been following the Beach Club project for the past 3.5 years, and I seem to remember, I read the report thoroughly, and I was having a hard time finding out why it got up to that $4.6 million figure, 3.6 or 4.6. It just seems like it's astronomical. It seems to me it started out at a $1.2 million project, and it just kept building and building, and some of those additions were good, but how in the heck did it get up to that high a figure? And it's going to be 4 full years. And I know myself and a lot of residents are really ticked off. And it seems like the third amendment is just adding insult to injury. There's got to be an end. So I'd like some answers. Thank you.
We got the guy with the pictures to explain that all.
Yeah.
Well, I had asked Eric for a financial summary because the staff report was a little bit difficult to handle. Maybe Eric could show.
Well, and before you...
It doesn't defend anything by any means, but it kind of explains what we were being asked to approve.
And Larry, I just want to echo your statements in that I agree with you, and I think a majority of council up here agrees with you, in that this has gone on way too long and way over budget. And last year, or about a year and a half ago, we basically moved the project under a different department to hopefully curtail some of those costs and bring it back, the project back in line with what the community expects. So with that, the staff want to address some of these concerns that are being addressed tonight, because I think everybody in the community, not just residents, but council as well, has concerns.
That's why we had 4 council members that pulled, or I think all 5 of us pulled the item for discussion,
Yeah.
So per Councilmember Donchek, we put together a little quick, kind of easy to follow.
Before, Eric, I'm sorry, before you jump on this, I just want to point out one other thing too, in that all new Parks and Rec projects, development projects are now no longer under Beach Parks and Rec, they're under which department?
Public Works.
And what was the reason for that essentially?
We've consolidated all of the design and maintenance and engineering under Public Works, so all of those thought processes can be encompassed when making designs. Still obviously incorporating the public process through Planning Commission and the BPR Commission, but
Perfect.
that shop taking all those into consideration.
So hopefully in the future, one of these projects, when we initiate these projects, they'll be closer to on budget and on time.
Yes, I hope so.
Thank you.
So with that, this is a really kind of simple to follow process that lays out the budget. So in 2012, we originated the project with a $1.5 million budget. Then there was an increase in 2013 for $1 million. And then there was a supplemental appropriation done in 2013 for $655,000. And then another supplemental appropriation for 2015. And if there's specific questions to these steps that basically what the details are, I'm going to defer to Public Works. Amir's here, who can go into those and also talk about his staff report. So that brought us to the current budget of $4.394,400. Tonight, we're requesting an additional $205,810, which would bring the proposed budget to 4.6. I'm just rounding. And as you can see from the below breakdown, that $205,000 is represented in increases to Dudek, who's our construction management firm, ARG, who provides construction support services for $50,000, ARG for redesign of the club room, which is $14,000, and then staff time for $15,000. So the total being again $205,810. The increase tonight before the council, we're recommending that we utilize the Developer Improvement Fund. And as you can tell, going back to the supplemental appropriation done in 2015, we also appropriated money out of the Developer Improvement Fund. So that's kind of the chronological as to where we're here, why we're here tonight. Questions?
And can you talk a little bit about why the request? For example, there is a second swimming pool that was underneath the swimming pool. It sounds like, given the age of the project, there's been some surprises that have lengthened the original estimate.
Absolutely. I'll let Amir cover those.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Amir Al-Khanipur with Public Works Engineering Division. Part of one of the reasons that on both of these consultants, the architect and also the construction management consultant, is the construction originally was going to be completed in 1 year. And that didn't happen, unfortunately, due to some unforeseen conditions, as some of those unforeseen conditions being, like, for example, the pool, as you mentioned. We found another pool underneath of the swimming pool, and that created some difficulties as far as the cost and also the length of, we had to saw cut 2 pools now instead of 1 pool. So that added to the difficulty. Like inside the building on the first floor, the slab, we found 2 slabs. Apparently at the beginning when they did the construction, they had 1 slab, and maybe due to some settlement or some other issues, they poured another slab over the existing slab, and they didn't properly connect the 2 slabs. So when we were about to pour our new footings and some of the new slabs, then we found that it was not appropriate to use the old slab, and so the design team decided that they had to redesign a new slab and basically demolish and take out the old slab and make it appropriate. Another unforeseen condition that we found and was it took some time to address it, to do a proper design and permitting. Going back to our permit division, was we found a lot of damaged wood due to moisture and the leak that we had throughout the years for the last 90 years. So again, that was a major hurdle for us and challenge to overcome, and we finally, we redesigned it, and now it's underway. So those were some of the challenges that we had and that we just had to address. And again, the part of the difficulty and time consuming is every time there's a change to the plans, we have to design it, redesign it, go back to the building department, and get the approval and permits. Of course, the building department been very helpful to us and very processing our requests, our design changes very rapidly, and we don't have any issues there. So those were and have been some of the challenges that we had for the project.
And so, this is sort of a gift that keeps on giving.
Right.
That's a joke. In the event an El Nino is round the corner, how contained is the construction project, and what is the city doing to make sure that if it's not contained, we've got the protection so that we don't lose time and we don't damage exposed elements?
Fortunately, now most of the work is inside the building, and I would say...
So the roof is done?
The roof is not done completely. However, the sheeting is done, and we have tarp on it. So the danger of the building being exposed to moisture and rain is very less likely. And we are thinking, we're planning, hopefully the roof, the tiles be put on about a month or so. But again, before then, we have the new sheeting plywood on it already, and as I mentioned, we have also tarped it, so we are pretty well protected.
So with all of these changes, and if we approve the request for funds tonight, when's the projected completion date?
The good news is about 2 months ago, we reported a completion date of end of March, and it's still end of March of 2016.
Okay. And the second question is I'm going to add one more. Is this it, or do we have any other is there anything else coming down the pipe? I know. Can we anticipate any more unanticipated costs?
Well, we hope not, because we almost have exposed, I would say, a good 80 to 90% of the building as far as inside out.
Okay. And then the last question I had as part of this is have we, one of the things I'm really particularly, is cost recovery. So as an event center, we need to start booking and getting our revenue out of this dang thing as soon as possible for March 2nd,
Anybody want to get married in the audience?
16.
Coming up 2016? Anyone? No?
I'm actually quite serious. We're going to have this beautiful brand new facility, and we should start booking this thing immediately, because I had somebody contact me who's getting married in July. We didn't really have good dates or event scheduling, or at least we don't have a firm mind, and so they had to book somewhere else. And so I don't want to have a 3, 4, 5 month lag time. So I really want to start getting, the place subscribed. Last question is, the last beach club, it was kind of put together, something was wrong, it was just kind of, glossed over. That's why we find ourselves, how long is it going to be before we have to do this again? How long will this construction last?
We're hoping not for a long time. As a matter of fact, you mentioned, I would like to also mention something. What are the issues that we're finding out that is in the past, unfortunately, some patchwork was done, and the patchwork was not really coordinated, and now with this comprehensive rehab job that we're doing, we're hoping that should take us for a good long time. And one other clarification that I would like to make is the building, the construction is going to be completed by end of March 2016. However, I think the recreation staff, they need another month. I believe Pam Paso is not here, but one time she mentioned that she needs another month to be able to complete the furnishing and making it ready to be used, so would be end of April.
Lori? It's Kathy.
Oh, sorry. I have one question on the design proposal for the club room, redesigning the club room.
Yes.
For $14,180. Is that a new redesign, or is that something that we approved prior and we're just getting to it? Because I was surprised to see that the club room was redesigned, so that's my question.
So one of the things, to Councilmember Brown's point with regards to looking for maximizing revenue opportunities at the Ole Hanson, so we're in the midst of actually putting together an RFP to put on the street a RFP for looking for an operator of the Ole Hanson Beach Club for the rental purposes only. The pool activities, recreation programming, that would remain with BPR, and they would do that. And one of the things that we found out doing a little bit of due diligence in terms of research was when you have a wedding venue, you need a bridal room for the bride to change and to do that kind of thing. And so those costs are associated to creating a bridal room in the club room, yet still leaving the club room intact with about 700 square feet to allow for community programming such as the North Beach Community Association or other types of community meetings. The upstairs is typically where the wedding venues are preferred, and so that is the reason for that additional cost.
Okay, so the office was in there originally. You have an office in the bridal suite next to it. Was that in the club room originally?
No. Those are
Okay,
new.
so
Those are new additions.
So
The
we're
office,
just completely changing the club room and
correct. So the
moving-
office would be where you would meet to go over your bridal or wedding package, and then the club room would have, like a wall mirror and an armoire for the bride to get, dolled up and do that type of stuff.
Okay. All right, so that's in keeping with trying to get more revenue for.
Yeah, and it's actually many weddings nowadays. We struggle with this at the golf course. Many weddings want a bridal room as part of the venue, and then currently at the Wedgwood, we don't have that. So we have to kind of work around that a little bit. But if you notice at Wedgwood, we have a little leasing office, if you will, for the rental of the facility.
Which was an addition.
That is correct.
So BPR has okayed that this club room will work with the activities?
Absolutely. And I got to give credit to Amir and the architect. The way we've designed it, it's still leaving a nice footprint for the club room for community meetings, and it's not creating an awkward space.
Okay, last question. Speaking of pool activities and what we're going to have there, when is that coming back to council? What the program's going to be for the pool?
Those would be, I would assume, based on the time frame of March, that we would be looking at programming activities for the summer. So we'll start putting together the class brochure, the class magazine in late winter for summer, and so we can definitely come back to council to communicate those types of activities. I think we're going to try to look at trying a balancing act because we don't want to duplicate what we have at the Vista Hermosa Sports Pool. And try to look for ways to offset as well as accommodating our partnerships, because that's going to add a dynamic to our partnerships as well with regards to the swim teams and those types of things. So we want to look at that. But I do want to back up just for a moment, because one of the things that we're noticing with regards to the revenue opportunities with Ole Hanson is, I think we're looking at somewhere of over $250,000 a year in revenue that we can generate from wedding venue. And right now, or should I say, in 2012, when we were doing it ourselves, we were making a little bit less than that, and we were outlaying a lot of staff costs to generate that revenue. And so I think we're going to be coming back to council with potentially a proposal from some prospective vendor that can probably bring in upwards or more than $250,000 a year in revenue, and that'll be guaranteed revenue.
Okay, what is our summer season for the Beaches, Parks and Rec, the programming? You mentioned summer. What month is that? When does that start?
So if it opens in March, that would be in the middle of our spring season, and so I'm going to probably estimate that our summer season starts late May and goes through August.
I would just encourage you on the pool side of it, if we're going to do classes there, that we start them as soon as possible after the pool opens, because there's actually people waiting for that to come back, and not just the summer season.
And completely agree, and to that point, recreation swimming, we don't have to wait for the magazine to do that, and those types of things. So we can definitely get many of those things going while not waiting. One of the things I just have to time is the advertising of the class magazine for those class signups.
I think for most of these people, all you have to do is put the word out, and they'll all come.
Fair enough.
And can you make sure that the walls will screen people changing in the restrooms? Just a small request.
You're going to go there, Tim?
Yeah, just a small request.
Understood.
Walls on changing rooms? Don't, you're being ridiculous.
I got a question, man.
Take us back to sanity, Bob.
Lori, have you got some photos you can show us? I'd like the folks at home.
I do want to see some photos.
To
I want to see what
some
we're
of the
planning.
photos of the issues that happened that Amir was speaking about earlier.
I will say, when I did a tour of it a couple months ago, some of the main supporting structures of the posts were just floating posts on dirt, which I thought was really interesting. So
Well, I took my own tour, and that's the thing that sticks out right at you, is that this building has been held together with, I think they say bubble gum and baling wire for a long time. And supporting members were cut, not, as you said, not supported, and now it's not. This is going to last for a very long time. We are doing this right. This building is done correctly. This is going to be a great thing. It was in the current city manager's report. Yeah. No, there were some, in the current city manager report, that were the photos. This is the current one? Weren't those photos in there of the?
This is the first floor and the new slab that we poured, and obviously the walls are being erected, and also you see a few I-beams we're all supporting, and also on the corner you see the new elevator there, that the elevator shaft and the housing has been constructed and is about ready to be installed in about like 2-3 months.
I'm sorry, we can't find the photos, but there were a lot of photos in the city manager's report that showed all of the damaged woodwork that was in there, all the damaged plywood, how the decks were leaking and the wood was rotted out underneath it, supporting members. I mean, a 6x6 that was cut, a 6x6 holds up relatively heavy stuff. A 6x6 cut and had a few other pieces of wood underneath it hold the whole thing up. I mean, it was, we fixed a lot of stuff here, so. And we were hoping to do some cost recovery with a tank that Amir found that we were hoping held some valuable whiskey from the Prohibition days, but didn't turn out that way. We're going to sell that and bottle.
Is that it? Before we move the item?
No,
I was going to wrap it up. Eric, where you at? So one of the things that I hope we can take away from this is, as I mentioned before you started speaking, we made a lot of changes in terms of how we manage new projects, remodels, and things in the community. And one of the projects I think that's fallen under this from the beginning is the El Portal Stair project. So I'm hoping, cautionarily, crossing my fingers, that this project will come in under budget and on time with the changes we've implemented in recent history.
And I think so far, I'm going to look back to Tom Bonnegat. I think that project is moving along on budget, on time, so I think we're going to have a great amenity.
Well, I'd like to challenge.
It's not a historical building that we had to open up and find out what's going on. Yeah.
Pretty significant. I'd like to challenge staff to come in.
We're good at stairways.
On time with that one, so.
Understood.
Yeah.
And I challenge you to a stair race once it's.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm out.
I'll leave you in the dust, yeah. All right, so hearing that the level of concern continues to be very high on making sure we deliver a high-quality project, and that the council's messages were done with spending money on the project, I'm gonna.
Let me
Well, I'll put the motion out there. Oh.
I want to add something to this before we move on.
Oh.
So, James, did we ever get the press release out with the photos that were in the city manager's report? We discussed that a few weeks back. And if we have or did not or didn't yet, hopefully the media can make use of some of those photos and maybe do a little bit of public outreach with those photos that we have, so that people can see some of the significant damage that we had there. So.
Okay, you ready now?
Yes, thank
you. So I definitely want to send the message that we're concerned, this is it in terms of the money. I do want to thank staff, because dealing with a historic resource in a marine environment that frankly wasn't taken care of to its best possible level over the years makes this a really hard project. And you guys are sticking with it and getting the job done, so I thank you for that. And I guess with that, I'll approve staff's recommendation. Do I need to read all three parts, Joanne, since it's on consent?
Okay, I'll second it. Motion by Doncheck, second by Ham. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item I. Public pull die? No. Did the public pull die? No, I don't have a card. Yep, public did pull I. Okay.
Hang on 1 second.
What? Oh, we're going to update with the photos here? Oh, here we go.
Here we go. Here's some photos for you at home. Those are some of the issues that, that we faced down at the rehabilitation. Yeah. You seen those pictures, Larry? Yeah. There's a lot of them.
A lot of layers.
Okay, great. Brenda, you pulled item 6I. Come on up. Oh, did you want to say something? No? Okay. 6I, we're moving on. Brenda, you're up. Good to see you again.
First of all, I think I owe staff an apology for not doing my homework in advance like I normally do, but I emailed Tom Frank earlier today about going over in detail the budget and the bidding for the restriping in this project, and I saw absolutely no mention of sharrows. And that's really important. Looking at the staff report, we're $400,000 under the amount we've allocated for this project. And I would like to see sharrows put on Avenida de la Estrella from El Portal down to Los Molinos, and the entirety of the Los Molinos stretch from El Camino Real to Pico, or whatever the extent is on that north end of Los Molinos. It's extremely important. I calculated out if we put, that's about 2 miles in length. If we put sharrows every 200 feet approximately, and they cost about $100 a sharrow, you know, we're looking at $5,200. If we put them at 100-foot increments, we're looking at double that. So I think it sends the right message. It, again, to review, it does not change the allocation of the public right-of-way. What it does is it's a signal to bicyclists as to where they should be positioned in that lane of travel, and it signals to motorists that that is in fact shared space between bicyclists and motorists. That preserves on-street parking. It doesn't put the Class 2 striped bike lane in the deadly door zone. And everybody's happy. So any questions or comments? Some of you look a little puzzled.
Brenda, I'm a little puzzled, though. Isn't, without the designations, isn't it, and there's no bike lane, isn't that just intuitive? I mean, because if we were to do this marking everywhere in town, I mean, because literally what you're saying is we should do it on every street in town.
Not necessarily every street, but they are a very cost-effective way of providing guidance to all roadway users. It's very inexpensive to do. It doesn't contribute to sign pollution. They're highly recommended at the state and the federal level. They are essential. And I can tell you, as someone who has been victimized a couple of times in this town by aggressive motorists who were upset because I came to a complete stop at a stop sign on Calle Puente, they send the right message. So,
Well, based on the criteria, where wouldn't we use these designations then?
well, the requirements are that you don't put them on roadways where I believe the speed limit is 35 or more than 35 or 40 miles an hour for safety reasons. But for those lower speed streets, residential collectors, and those very type of streets that we're going to be resurfacing in that area, that's ideal. That pathway is the primary pathway for bicycling to go from El Camino Real to Pico and ultimately to the outlet mall. People are not going to actually go down all the way to Coast Highway and then climb the hill at Pico and climb the hill at Vista Hermosa. We go past the Boys and Girls Club on the other side of that canyon there, and go down by Rainbow Sandals, make a left onto Pico, and then go to the outlet mall. That's the pathway. So,
I got a question, Tim, if I can interrupt you there while you're thinking. I mean, Tim makes a good point, Brenda. You're talking about putting sharrows all over town. You talk about shared space. Aren't the entire roadways shared space?
they are shared space, but the problem is, people don't get the message.
Well, Brenda, that's not just a problem in bicycles. That's a problem with many, many things.
Yeah,
I mean, we're not going to cure all the ills of the world here,
I'm not
but
asking to cure all the ills of the world. I'm asking for inclusion of those shared markings to send the message that you have to share the roadway. There is no debate about that nationally, about the value of the shared lane marking. None.
I will say, I see the benefit of where Brenda's going with this along Los Molinos in the commercial district, because I think that's a no-brainer. The residential zone, Brenda, I mean,
No, I'm, not the little.
The Estrella portion that's basically mostly residential, I
Avenida
see your
de la
point, and I'm
Estrella.
not disagreeing with it, but I see a benefit more so on Los Molinos than I do.
I don't see any benefit of spending this ton of money for tangential benefits that should be already implied in the construction and use of the road already. I mean, because if you think about it, you build this in Los Molinos, you're building it in the commercial business park, right? You're building it in literally every street on town that is less than 35 miles an hour.
No, because I would disagree with that, because I feel like Brenda's been here for a lot of our roadway projects that we've been here, and she hasn't asked for sharrows on. This is probably your second time I think you've been here and asked for sharrows, so, since I've been on council. So I would disagree with that.
But ultimately, we're going to spend $5,000 to build
Well,
to paint markings on the road that
And that's my point, so.
is already implied.
The majority of the
I'm
area.
struggling with it.
The majority of the area is Estrella, and that's a much larger portion than Los Molinos. And so if we cut her request down to a smaller portion. it's
I'm
not
just,
5,000.
because it makes sense on the, we have them all over the bike highway where the route goes through town,
Yeah.
through on Ola Vista.
Yeah.
Right there, but this is not I know I appreciate Brenda's characterization of it, but I wouldn't consider this to be a major bike thoroughfare in our city. Am I wrong on that estimation?
Can I add one point? Is I think when we talked about routes to school and trying to get kids that go to our high school from South San Clemente, wasn't
Yes.
this like a route that they would take?
This
they would
is
take?
correct.
Okay, so I think I
Yes.
do remember that from a prior meeting where if we want our high school kids to be able to ride the bike, they are going to take Estrella and maybe Los Molinos and go up there, and maybe even Shore Cliffs also, right? Was that a route for Shore
That
Cliffs?
is also potentially in the mix, but, cost versus benefit analysis, this has much greater benefit than it does cost.
Then we should do a Safe Routes to School grant and get it done with that. I don't want to spend general fund revenues on.
This is under budget, as she mentioned, but what I'm
Yeah.
wondering is,
We're
you,
$400,000 under budget,
Did
and
you
we're
say
talking
you
about
talked to Tom
$5,000.
Frank on this?
No, I emailed Tom
Okay.
today. I didn't get a response back. I don't know if he's in the office, but I apologize because I didn't
because I'm
actually.
surprised Tom wouldn't have made a
Yeah, I'm
comment on this, actually.
kind of surprised too.
Because this
but-
did come up, kids that have biked all the way through to Concordia, parents would like them to be able to go to the high school and still bike.
Correct.
And so I remember that this is the route that they would take. They don't want to be on El Camino Real.
But, I mean, do you want middle-aged school kids doing a Sharrows?
That's high school age.
Well, and actually, not Shore Cliffs. I mean, you were talking Shore Cliffs and the high school.
That was
I mean, ultimately, because Sharrows, right, assumes responsible bikers, responsible drivers sharing the road together. And so I would rather look at this a Safe Routes to School grant, creating bike, who knows, something different. I don't know if the expenditure is worth it in Los Molinos. It just seems.
Well, can I mention, there's a lot of car places on Los Molinos, and I've ridden my bike there to go pick up my car and get back home when I've had to drop a car off.
How
So
about if we
I
do
actually
this?
see bikers on Los
I
Molinos.
think she's bringing up an important point, and would it be sufficient if we were supportive of a next step of talking to the Los Molinos Business Association and Tom Franks, and if those stakeholder groups feel that it makes sense that we do it. Because I think the Sharrows have a real important traffic calming component to them.
They do.
And I also think, especially the part you're talking about, the commercial district, a lot of people use bikes to get to Boys and Girls Club, to get around, and it's kind of a stop-and-go situation. So
We don't want to hold up the contract.
Here's the deal.
No.
I don't think Los Molinos is that far of a stretch. It'd be,
Scary.
if Brenda's numbers are right, a few $1,000s. I think it might be a little bit more than that. But Los Molinos, we're bicycle advocates in this community. Why would we not want to do it?
I want to hear I want to see a staff report. I want to see some information. I'm not concerned about the money, Chris. I'm concerned about, is this a good idea? I mean, Tim makes a point. If you're going to put it on roadways that are 30 miles an hour or less, then you're going to pave the whole town with Sharrows. I don't think we want to do that. And you can't, if you're going to, at the dais, if we're going to design all this stuff here and say, oh, put them there, but don't put them there, I want information from our traffic engineer, the guy that really does this stuff. That's what I want.
Okay, so city manager, help us with this, because we don't want to hold up the contract. So should we approve the
We
contract?
do need to hold the contract because we want to amend it.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
I don't think this was an alternative in the bid set, Tom, so it'd have to be a follow-on anyway, is it?
Good evening, Mayor Ham and Council. Tom Bonita, Deputy Public Works Director. You don't have to make a decision tonight, and what I'd recommend strongly that you go ahead, if you're inclined to, and award the contract as it is. The Sharrows we're talking about, if we end up getting there, don't affect the roadway geometry, the striping. They don't conflict with any of the existing striping. They frankly can be added whenever we're ready to add them. So we can go back if it's your direction, look at it if it makes sense in any or all these streets, provide the information that Councilman Baker suggested to give a little bit more thoughtful consideration. And it's a modest cost, and it could be added. It doesn't conflict with what we're proposing to do, but we would like to get on with the street project.
Well, with that, I'd like to make the motion that we approve item 6I with the direction that we ask staff to get back to us with a memo on whether or not shares would be a good idea in this location.
I will second that, but for discussion, Tom, since you're standing there, could you talk a little bit about how this paving project works with the undergrounding project?
Sure. So as the council's aware, SDG&E is in process on a undergrounding project to take the overhead lines and put them to underground service. It's been many years in the making. That project is nearing completion. So
I think you were like 12, right?
Yeah, I think so. Almost a baker's dozen. So really quick, a couple milestones coming up. The bottom line, we think that by the end of the calendar year, maybe December, all of the utilities will be off the poles, and then potentially the poles will be removed December or January. How it works with our project is probably by late November, early December is when we would be ready to do our final finish paving on the street. And we've already confirmed with the utilities that any remaining work that they may have after won't impact the quality of the street. Obviously, we don't want anyone trenching into the brand-new pavement. The pole removals won't impact that. So we want to get this contract going. We want to get the street paved before the end of the year. I don't want to find out what an El Nino will do to it because I already know, and I don't want us all to see it. But the utility companies, with the city managers urging to light a little bit of fire, they're moving forward rather quickly. The new streetlights will be energized probably early October. So it's fitting together pretty well, and we're looking to get a lot of work, and it'll dramatically transform the area within the next few months.
What a great facelift for the district.
And we will be working with SDG&E and your council when we have the last pole that gets removed. We're planning on doing a pole pulling ceremony, and I'm serious about that.
Excellent.
So,
you should be the
chief pole puller.
Yeah, chief pole puller.
So that's my quick update.
Okay, with that, we have a motion by Ham, second by Doncheck. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Passes 5-0. Brenda, thanks for bringing that to our attention. J, item J. So this one is pooled land lease parcel. J, no, J comes before K, right? H-I-J, yeah. So, item J, we need to make a quick amendment on this lease agreement here. And Tim, if you could handle the linguistics of that, I'd appreciate it. This is returning the property back to its...
Oh, yeah.
No, I want you to handle the amendment, returning the property, right or refute, like, you had a,
At the end of their lease agreement, that we have the right to request them to return the property.
Yeah, the one amendment we had on this one here was,
so the guy's a good memory.
you know, there's I'm sorry, I crossed my lines here, a removal restoration clause. So right now, the uses of this property will be for parking lot. But in case we don't perceive a need for parking lot or future, there's some other project we have in mind in terms of addition to the CASA or something else in that area, we'd like to have a clause inserted for removal restoration clause, where we could ask them to remove the lot and restore it back to at least an at-grade surface or something allows us to build another asset on it.
Okay, I think I understand what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's very similar to what telecom side on a removal restoration component. They have to remove it, put it back the way it was, with certain, you know, obviously some things you can't put back the way they were in terms of green space, but I know it will affect negotiations, but ultimately.
The option.
The option to ask that if we.
The option to.
Yeah, the option to ask that, our option to do so.
City's option, not.
And there's one option to renew, so the initial term is essentially 6 years. And during that 6 years, at the end of the 6 years, if there is an option for the lessee to renew, but the option is at the city's discretion. At that point, if you elect to not renew, there is a buyout provision. So we're compelled to compensate them the lesser of $75,000, or there's a calculation based on how long they use the lot. So
my recommendation is after that term, it would be the following.
The next 5-year term.
After that trigger, after the next 5-year term, if
Okay.
we decide not to renew or move forward, then we have that clause inserted.
Okay, very good. I understand what you're looking for. It's item 54, improvements, and we'll put some amended language in there and continue to negotiate.
With that, I'll move the item. Motion by Ham, second by Brown. All's in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thanks, Tom.
Very good.
Good to see you. Item K.
Tom, while you're there, item K is a purchase of electricity. It's a very impressive program. Just brief the folks at home on it for just a minute.
Sure, very good. The city in about 2011 entered into an agreement to purchase electricity directly from ISPs, they call them. They're essentially buying electricity from providers other than San Diego Gas and Electric. And by doing that, by buying electricity for at least a year at a time, we've been able to reduce the price significantly. We still get our distribution of electricity through San Diego Gas and Electric. The program is pretty well known. It's called Direct Access. And we had to actually go into a lottery and attempt to get selected, if you will, to participate. Because the city's such a large purchaser of electricity, we qualified. And we've been purchasing electricity on 1- and 2-year contracts essentially for 5 years. The electricity market is very favorable right now, and staff has recommended that we enter into a longer-term purchase agreement than 1 year, in fact, 2 years at this point. By doing so, we could lower our costs about 15% if we were to execute that agreement today.
Well, I just want to, how do I get in the lottery? Because I want to do this for my house, but no. Just for large users like the city. And we save the city a tremendous amount of money every year by doing it this way. Tom, is that correct?
That's correct. We're in comparative, in the last 12 months, we would have paid $300,000 more for our electricity if we were purchasing it directly from SDG&E.
Okay. Thank you, and thanks for administering this, and keep up the good work there, sir. And with that, I'll move the item.
Motion by Baker, second by Brown. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Yep, we'll take a 5-minute break. 8:35. Lori, is that good with you? Okay, 8:35 it is.
public hearing process includes a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant not to exceed 10 minutes, and public testimony not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker. Following closure of the public hearing, the City Council will respond to questions raised during the hearing, discuss the issue, and act upon the matter by motion. The first public hearing on the agenda is to consider the proposed submission of the 2014-2015 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, but staff is recommending that this public hearing be continued to the council meeting of October 6th to enable staff to make some corrections to the CAPER.
I'll second it. Motion by Baker, second by Ham. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Next is public hearing to consider an appeal by the City Council to consider the Planning Commission's July 22nd approval of a request to construct a single-family residence with a reduced front yard setback on a vacant Coastal Canyon lot located at 200 West Avenida San Antonio, with the future address to be changed to 234 West Avenida San Antonio.
That's correct. Good evening, everyone. Amber Gregg, project planner. Just want to kind of refresh everybody on this project. This is a variance for a new single-family home. This single-family home is located on a Coastal Canyon lot that has quite a number of constraints to it. And the variance request is actually for the front yard. The median front yard setback is 10 feet, and they are requesting a variance down to 4 feet because of that canyon. Here you can see where the parcel is located. It's the last vacant lot on Avenida San Antonio. It's probably vacant because of its odd configuration and hardship that they have in order to put something on there. So the project does comply with all the development standards except for the front yard setback, which is the variance that they're requesting for tonight. As I said, the project is located on a coastal canyon, and when you have a coastal canyon property, you have 3 different setback requirements. Typically, California Coastal Commission requires the most restrictive setback. The 3 are top of canyon, string line to nearest like property structures, and then a 30% lot depth. In this case, if you apply the first 2, you have a very, very narrow area. Staff did discuss the project with the California Coastal Commission whenever we have, or their staff anyway, whenever we have difficult properties like this, we like to converse with them so that we don't lead applicants down the wrong path or have them do something that potentially won't be supported by them. The concern that we had was with the biological study and primary vegetation. A study was conducted, and there is no ESHA habitat on site, which is very important. That's environmentally sensitive habitat areas. But it should be noted that the project does require California Coastal Commission approval, so whatever is deemed here tonight still has to go forward to them, and they have to be supportive of it. So this is just an overview of the canyon that this individual parcel is located in, and to see its relationship within that canyon. On the bottom left, you have what would be the ocean, and then the canyon that forks up from that, with San Antonio and Avenida Alessandro creating a horseshoe in that area. This is the lot itself, so you can see how the canyon actually comes up into that parcel. Here on the topography map, you see the only flat area of the parcel is only 12 feet deep and approximately 28 feet at the widest part, which is a triangular portion, which is very hard to design a building on. Typically, the front yard setback in the residential low zones is 20 feet. In this case, it's 10.5 because a median setback applies. That happens when you have 4 or more lots developed on a street that has reduced setbacks. In this case, it does. We'll get more into that median setback in just a couple slides, though. I do want to show you how the architect tried to design a house on this plan, so you can see how it projects on that narrow triangular part. They did put the smallest rooms they could, in this case the bathroom closest to the street, next to the washer and dryer, and a closet, to try to step that back and use the smallest rooms possible along there. In addition, those are only 1-story rooms in that area. So here on the elevation, you can see on the far right, it's the 1-story elements that step up to the 2-story and back down to the 1 in order to help with massing, with having the reduced setback. So here are just a couple elevations for the modern architecture that's proposed. Here on the left is driving down San Antonio. On the right is adjacent to the northern property. And then here we have looking from the canyon view. So whenever we look at variances, because we do not take variances lightly in this community, we have to see if this property was developed to the 10.5-foot setback and how that it would look. So in this slide, you see the 10.5-foot setback, and this is the portion of the home that actually encroaches into that. What they did is they just tried to use this area to square off rooms to make them livable, basically. It was very nice to see that the applicant didn't just put a sheer massing of 4 feet along there, and it actually does meander. In addition, in this part of town, it is very odd that we have the street next to the curb as opposed to a parkway and then sidewalk. So in this case, they're flip-flop. So when you're actually standing on the sidewalk, you have an extra 3.5 feet of separation because there's a required landscape parkway that's there. So when we look at variances, the purpose of a variance is in special circumstances, that they might deprive a property owner of development privileges, and that results in a hardship for the property owner. In this case, staff and the Planning Commission had stated that the lot is irregular in shape. There's a meandering right-of-way, and that it basically bisects the lot and makes it that odd shape. The steep topography of the canyon and a constrained rear yard setback due to the coastal canyon. So the surrounding conditions are also important. As I said, that this is a median front yard setback of 10.5 feet, which means that half the homes on the lot have a setback larger than 10.5 feet, and half the homes on that street have a setback smaller than 10.5 feet.
And Amber, what would be the setback required were there no homes built on the street?
If there were none, 20 feet.
20 feet. So in the past, we've allowed variances to get the median down to 10.5 feet.
That's correct. And the ones that we have record of are on this slide, too, that we've noted.
Okay, so had the city paid attention to these houses that were getting variances in years past, we would have probably nothing on this lot or something way into the canyon that would, the Coastal Commission wouldn't like very much. Is that right? Okay,
Yeah, that's
thank you.
So the one that has the least amount of setback is actually right adjacent to this property, just south of it, where they only have a setback of 16 inches. So, So these are just a couple pictures of the surrounding area. The property just to the north of it has a 10.5-foot setback, but they're able to have a bit more of a rectangular shaped lot there. And then the other picture is the one with the 1.5 feet. And these are other homes in the area along that street. So in conclusion, basically based on the special circumstances, Planning Commission and staff supported the variance for the reasons that I've stated and the fact that the house was in character with the existing neighborhood. So that concludes staff's presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions along with the applicant.
Why didn't we push the house further out into the canyon, Amber? So you wouldn't need the 4-foot variance if you pushed it 4 feet further out?
The reason why we didn't is knowing that the California Coastal Commission is most likely going to be pushing that back in the other way, and it was the best way for us to help preserve the canyon as well. So we have conflicting goals here. We have a front yard setback that wants to push the house back, and then we have a goal of a community in the Coastal Commission that wants to push the house closer to the street. So we felt that this was a good compromise and in fitting with the neighborhood to come up with this solution.
Okay, thank you.
I want to compliment you on an excellent report to begin with. At the public hearing at the Planning Commission level, did anyone speak besides the applicant on this project?
We did receive one letter that came in before the meeting, and that letter had asked that the Planning Commission hold that lot to the 20-foot setback that they had utilized, but unfortunately, I don't think that they understood that they themselves, that house didn't hold to the 20-foot setback. They used the 10.5-foot setback, but they also didn't have the constraints that this lot had. Their biggest concern was the view off of, I'll use this one here, of this portion of the house. But during the design subcommittee process, there actually was a second story on here that was removed to help with the massing that we believe actually alleviates the concern for the neighbor by opening up their view.
That's good information. Thank you.
So the applicant's here, aren't they?
The applicant are.
Do they want to
very
speak since
late.
they've sat through the whole meeting?
Before you get to applicant, I have some more questions for staff. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions for staff? Okay. Okay, before we jump to them, can you go back to the slide with the red and the corners that you were talking about, how they squared it off? And while you're doing that, I didn't see anything else, but was there any other variances granted or requested for this project?
Just the front.
Okay. And just for clarification purposes, on the garage portion, the only variance they're requesting from the 10.5-foot median is that small red portion on the corner there?
Yes, that's the only portion that encroaches.
Because it sounds like to me, the concern that I'm hearing from the majority of council is, or from a portion of the council, is for parking. And so really the only variance they're asking for is that one little corner. So essentially you don't have 2 full parking spaces in the driveway, you have 1.
That's correct. And I just want to note something that the zoning ordinance has, and that's you actually can have reduced garage setbacks depending on your topography, between 5 feet for a garage setback and 10 feet. The reason why this parcel, because it has such topographical constraints, doesn't meet that one is because of the triangular part that projects so far. You have to have a grade change within the first 20 feet. And because of that projection, they're not eligible. If this was a typical lot, they could have applied for minor exception permit and had that approved that way.
Gotcha. Okay. Did you want to talk to the applicant, Kathy?
Yeah, Amber, on that shorter parking space in the driveway, what is it? Is it 6.6 or 8.6?
It's 8.6 to the property line, plus you have an extra 3.5 feet of parkway before you overhang a sidewalk.
Okay, that's
So
good
a
to
golf
know
cart
also.
could fit there perfectly.
Yes, yes, or as the applicant will
We don't
tell you,
drive
their
those.
Fiat that they own.
A Fiat would fit in there, I think.
Yes. And on
So-
the other side, you have a full car width driveway.
Yeah, I want to talk to the applicant, just real quick.
All right.
I know you did quite a few things to change this design, so it was brought up a little bit by Amber, but can you talk a little bit about that? I think you took out that second story on that corners piece, and that was going to be an office?
Yeah, we had an office on the second floor up there, but during the design review, there was actually about 6 recommendations that the design review committee made to us, and we changed our design to incorporate all of them. One of them was on the setback in the front. They asked us to take off the second floor in the most northern spot to soften the appearance to the street, and we thought that would be a good idea, and we were willing to do that. We kind of just took that space off about 500 square feet. But we also realized when we did that we opened up that view corridor for our neighbor. And in speaking with the neighbor, that's probably their best view in the house. And so they're very appreciative of that.
I just wanted to mention and say thank you for all that you did to work with our design review and our city
Oh, sure.
to fit on this lot and be a good neighbor. I just want to really thank you for that, because some people don't follow our direction, but you
Yeah.
completely seem to have done that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a pleasure working with the city, from the beginning to end, really. People have been very cooperative, and, all we've wanted to do is, find a way to put a house on a very difficult piece of property. So I think we've accomplished that, yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
I got a couple questions for Mr. Spencer.
Sure.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just making sure. It saw Spencer residence, I want to make sure that's you.
Yeah.
Is this going to be your primary residence after completion
Yes.
of construction?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And that's your wife and daughter back there?
Yes, my lovely wife and daughter. Our home is...
Yeah, very, seriously.
Our son is home studying, and so...
Where's your residence currently?
We're currently renting up in Mission Viejo.
Okay.
We're living in North San Diego, and this is part of my presentation, actually, but I was off on a business trip 2 years ago, this week, actually, and my wife gave me a call, and she said, you know how we always talked about building a house? We always kind of wanted to live closer to the water, and I said, yeah. She said, 2 for 1, we can do it.
Yeah.
So we did. We actually put the offer in the following week, but we had a 5-month escrow because we obviously wanted to make sure that we were going in with our eyes wide open. We did soils tests, we did new topo, we talked to an architect, we went to the city. Actually, my wife came to a city council meeting, and Mayor Baker at the time suggested she talk to Jim Petchis, and she did. We found out that it was a a lot that we could have a house on, and that's what started the process. So we put our variance in, it was about a year ago, and so here we are.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Sure.
Any other questions?
I don't. I pulled this up because I wanted everybody to take a look at this, because this is an important thing. We're doing variances for driveways. Everybody knows that you drive around town and you see somebody's garage door open. It's very rare that you actually see a car in there. So it's an issue, and it's something that, we can't control, of course, but we want to be stingy with these variances when they're parking issues, because they impact not only the resident, they impact all the neighbors, and not only just the neighbors, but anybody who drives by on the street, because you have to be careful. You have to be careful with this stuff, and I think we've done. I think Mr. Spencer, I think you've done a good job in this, and in explaining everything, and Amber, you've done a good job in explaining everything. How we've had other issues on the street before, and consequently, we're gonna make another exception right here, and I understand that your fiat, I get that, but the next,
Not mine.
but the next person that moves into your house in 10 years, when you move somewhere else, is going to have a giant Chris Ham truck. So
Actually, the average tenure on that street seems to be about 30 years.
You're absolutely
I'm
right.
expecting to have about 30 years.
Well, good for you. Good for
Take
you.
my vitamins.
A side point before you move this item, Bob, is, you bring up a good point. This is actually one of the streets that our fire truck doesn't fit down. They can't get down because the street's so tight, and then with parking on both sides. So, yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
And we have to be careful of that.
That's a very serious concern. So, before that, we'll open the public hearing. Joanne, do we have any cards? No. Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Lori and Joanne, who reminded me of that one. Are you going to move that?
With that, I'll move the item. Shall I read something, Joanne? I'll move that we adopt Resolution 15-43, entitled, "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of San Clemente, California, approving variance 14-388 Spencer Residence, request to construct a single-family residence with a reduced front yard setback on a vacant residential low-density coastal canyon lot located at 200 West Avenida, San Antonio, future address 234 West Avenida, San Antonio."
Second. Motion by Baker, second by Ham. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. And Spencer's, I look forward to the 4th of July party. We're going to have your house next year.
Yeah. It'll be
Kathy and I
great.
live down the street, so we'll be coming by for sure.
Excellent. We'll be good neighbors. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Next item is a fee waiver request for the landscape, the traffic circle located at the intersection of Boca de la Playa and Calle Las Bolas.
Spencer's, thanks for your patience. We appreciate it. Yeah. Hey,
Hello again.
good to see you.
Good evening, everyone. This is a request for a fee waiver for a traffic circle, and I was just going to give a brief presentation, if it suits the commission or the council, on...
I was going to say, you know what? We don't need to do if you just want to scroll through your slides real quick, we can just get a
That's
brief
where it's
over-
located at North
Yeah.
Beach. There's nothing there now, and we would like a beautiful landscape circle there. Is
Perfect.
what is being proposed.
So-
How tall? On the bump, no more than 3 feet. For the grade difference, it's 1 to 3 feet. And with the shrubs, they're not going to be very tall.
So I had asked the city manager this, when this idea first came up, I'm really concerned, I went down and looked at the boring one that's there, and there's signs, but I haven't seen a single rendition in the proposal that explains how the signs are going to be incorporated, that tell people how to,
Get around them.
get around, yeah.
Mhm.
Go this way.
And that would be
who's
done
paying
during
for those?
the design of where those signs are going to be would be done during the construction plan drawing, and Tom Bonita gets here, and I wouldn't want him to stay this late without asking him a question, but
But
that
there's like a
would be
half dozen of
incorporated.
them, and they have an important safety function.
Yes, if they need to be there, they would be incorporated.
And the folks that are donating all their time and energy understand that they're going to have wayfinding signs in their garden.
Yeah, I want to defer to the applicant who's here, who's requesting this. They've been working with that volunteer group, but yes, the people who are volunteering their time, who are professional contractors, know that they have to build it to what the city specifications are and requirements for safety.
And the money for this, I don't know how much, if a sign's $100 or $1,000, is that included in what we're approving tonight?
I don't believe there's signage in there, or if they would just use the existing signage and relocate it back onto the project.
Pretty ratty.
Can we go back to that slide with the signs? That's a good point.
Three of them.
All right, so the current plan is that we're going to repurpose the signs that are there.
I'll defer to Tom Bonnegat on that
Okay.
one, on how we typically handle.
And if it turns out to be an issue that needs some research, that's fine too. It's just that they're part of, a rotary is functional as well as decorative.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, well, I'm excited to hear from Ms. Holloway. So, Ms. Holloway, you got 3 minutes. Take it away.
That's when you start speaking, you have to run on.
Yeah, 3 minutes doesn't start now. Yeah, starts now. No, I'm just kidding.
So I've got a few slides. Let's see, is there oh, here, I'm sorry.
Yes,
that's
right.
There's 6. Okay.
Yeah, 'cause there's 2 per
And
poll.
then, and so I just, okay, takes me back, okay. All righty, here we go. Patricia Holloway, 25-year resident. I'm here to ask for your support to landscape the North Beach Roundabout. The San Clemente Tree Foundation and the North Beach Community Association have teamed up with a number of contractors from the Marblehead Coastal Development to landscape the traffic circle using volunteer labor and materials. And this could be accomplished at the fraction of the cost were the city to do it itself. If you agree to grant us the encroachment permit tonight, the city in North Beach will have a beautifully landscaped roundabout by the end of the year. That same roundabout will only cost about $7,900. We may have to throw in a couple of signs. Primarily for the cost of the irrigation meter. If the city were to postpone the project to 2017 and pay for all the labor and materials, the project could be closer to $300,000, similar to what the project down the block is in front of the Ellie's Table and the Beach Club. The Marblehead contractors must begin their project this fall right away, so they have time to finish the roundabout before their work is completed at the outlet center and they move on out of town. It's literally now or never, and we hope that you vote for now. It's my understanding that the city is concerned about the $3,000 annual maintenance cost, which we tried to avert by using volunteers, but so what I'd like to do is show you some examples of where the city is maintaining and irrigating landscaped areas around town, and we're hoping that you'd, give the same consideration to North Beach. So here we have a landscaped island that leads to Casa Romanica, and the city built this one. In Rancho San Clemente, we have jacaranda trees on Avenida Pico. These are pine trees maintained by the city on Del Cerro. More medians. This is Avenida La Plata, where we have some nice oak trees and sycamores. In Talega, we have more oak trees and agaves in the medians. In the reserve, which is part of Forester Ranch, we have some nice camphor trees irrigated with reclaimed water. Some more camphor trees. In Forester Ranch, the city maintains these sycamores, and they just planted some nice shrubbery in there. This is a yew tree median that buffers an old neighborhood from some of the traffic noise on Los Mares. Here we have the neat date palms on Los Mares. In the coast, we have some ficus trees and a median planters, more landscape islands, and so on. I'll finish with Southwest San Clemente. We've got some medians on Valencia and Esplanade, Ola Vista and Alessandro, and finishing with, this is near the intersection of Calle and Ola Vista, another landscaped area.
Beautiful park there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Patricia,
I have a
you
question.
made some big promises there. End of the year, it's coming up quick. Okay, what do you got?
I have a question.
Sure.
On your plant palette.
Yes.
Okay. I am concerned about the 3,000 in maintenance a year, and I think that we might be able to cut that back with some of the plants that we put in there.
Sure.
And I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Erigonum?
Eriogonum.
Okay.
That's
I knew there was
buckwheat.
something else in there.
It's a native buckwheat.
Those seem like they're going to need a lot more maintenance and cleanup and things like that. And I'm hoping that we can replace those because I saw that they're going to be 1 gallon, and I think there's I can almost barely read it, 28 1-gallon plants. So
Yeah,
they're like
it's
a majority of what's going to be covering this, I think.
Yeah, we're not married to the plant palette. If you want to, modify it, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably more of an expert on that, but I just think if we had things that were hardier and not so frilly and needed pruning and cleanup and things, that maybe we don't have to allocate 3,000 a year to it, that it's just, if something dies or it needs some cleanup, somebody goes over there and does it, and I don't know, charges us, I don't know, an hourly thing or something, but it just seems like that this traffic circle does not need something on it that has to be maintained that well. Watering, certainly we're going to, do that, but that would be my only thing, is on that plant palette, it's 28 1-gallons, and everything else is, I mean, what's the other one, the top one? Abrania villosa? You're going to probably change that. That's a hardier plant, isn't it? It's not a grass?
Yeah, let's see. That's also a type of, let's see, what is that? It's like I've forgotten actually what the common name is for that, but it's kind of it's another native plant, low water use. I think he put that in for to add color. But the agave americana, the agave viosa, the opuntia Santa Rita, which is kind of a purpley colored cactus, but there's all kinds of opuntias that we could use.
For color? I mean,
yeah, for color.
I know you're going to need something that's lower to the ground, that would just be my comment, is
Kathy,
no grassy things.
I think $3,000 is an estimate. I hope that we're not actually going to pay $250 a month for maintenance of this structure. I just got a quote on my house and a much larger property and large trees, and it was
I would like you to
substantially less
clean
than
up the
this.
back of your house, too.
Don't bring that up here.
That would be good.
I like these neighbor disputes.
Point fingers at people now? This is what we're doing? City council meetings at 9 o'clock at night?
Just to kind of
Point
keep
fingers?
us on track here,
Yeah,
we've
thank
already
you,
had
Lori.
this issue brought to council before.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'd like to make a motion that we waive the city fees and give this a shot. It's a reversible decision if, that we can't pony up the maintenance money, whether it's 3,000 or 300. We'll let it go fallow, but I think this is a creative, generous, interesting project for North Beach, and we've talked about it a lot, and so let's give it a shot.
May
So
I make one comment before we make the motion on the waiver? Just one design question. A lot of the time I noticed, because I went and checked out in La Jolla, they put in a whole bunch of these in prominent intersections to slow the traffic down their main street. I don't know if you guys have seen them. Yeah. One thing they did on the design elements is they have a 12-inch ramped concrete barrier that allows cars to, when they brush it, they don't go into it and take off side part of their car. It's a roll curb. That's it. On design, I would like to encourage some type of roll curb on it, just because you don't want to be out there painting it all the time, and you don't want cars to be brushing up against it and taking off their fenders. So that's my.
Yeah, I did talk with Tom Frank about that, and he sent me an example of a rolled curb that he's used on another, I don't know if it was another roundabout, but in another area, I believe when he was in Encinitas or Escondido. So I have that, that graphic, which, you know, I could work with engineering, you know, our engineering department certainly on incorporating that as opposed to the standard curb.
So my motion is that we waive all city fees associated with the landscaping of the existing traffic circle, approve the proposed conceptual design with comments that you've heard from my fellow colleagues, approve an allocation of $7,000 for the service and meter installation from the Water Distribution Fund account 052463. The annual cost for maintenance will be included in the Public Works Maintenance Division budget, which is funded from the general fund, and we'll keep an eye on the project to make sure that it's cost responsible.
Second.
I'd like to discuss this for a second here. I don't see any public safety input in this staff report. I don't see anything that talks about the public safety impacts of planting trees and plants in the middle of a roadway that are going to impact sight distances for people driving through it. My main concern here is the safety of this intersection. It works perfectly well as it is today. It may be more beautiful if it's painted and fixed up a little bit, but I'm concerned about making it less safe. So before I can vote on something like this, I want to know what the traffic and engineering department says about making this less safe.
Well, I should first mention, there will be no trees in the project. I know they're shown on the plans, but there's utilities beneath the ground that the engineering department was concerned that the trees would interfere with the utilities, and so they asked us to delete the trees, so it will just be
Low level.
yeah, shrubbery, right, low-level landscaping.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, good evening, council members. Tom Bonnigat, Deputy Public Works Director. So we've not received a formal encroachment permit application. That'll come, but we have also reviewed and provided feedback on the conceptual information that your council has also received in terms of the concept and the direction this would be taking. And some of the things that my staff, Tom Frank and Jennifer Rosales, have been looking at are turning radii of larger vehicles, sight distance. It may have been stated before, I think in the presentation, that this is going to be mounted up to 1 to 3 feet. That's not necessarily correct. We'll be looking at a 1 foot maximum rise, and our understanding is ultimately the final landscaping palette, which I think will be similar to this, will be maintained in such a way that this vegetation will be relatively low. We won't recommend or allow trees because of the utilities underground, and so with proper design and a mountable curb edge type situation that was also mentioned, we think that, you know, there shouldn't be any adverse impact to safety. We're also looking at that to make sure vehicles can get around, people can see. We certainly don't want to create a hazard where we generally now have had a traffic circle that's been functioning fairly well. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, you did answer my question, but you're the key point why I can't support it is because it's a traffic circle that's functioning well, and I don't want to touch it, because that's, to me, is what's needed down here, is a traffic circle that functions well. To me, and this project started out free. To me, that's key. This started out free as a free idea. What's no longer free? It's taxpayer dollars, and I can't support it.
Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second on the table, and before we take a vote on that, I just want to comment that I, for one, am very excited about this project. I think it's a great opportunity for the community to get involved and be a beautification project for the community. And I hope that the next beautification project you do is a roundabout by my house. So if you could work on that one next, that'd be fantastic. And I'll recuse myself on that one. But so we have a motion by Donchak, second by Ham. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed.
That's 4-1 with Baker opposed.
Can we call it the Bob Baker Memorial Roundabout?
Yes.
It's my only request.
Please organize the colored rocks with a BB.
Brian, you're always trying to kill me off in these things. I'm starting to get a complex.
Oral communications part 2, do we have any cards?
No, sir.
Okay.
Next item is city position on resolutions being considered by the League of California Cities at the 2015 Annual Conference. And this item has been agendized to enable council to take a position on the 4 resolutions that the League will be considering.
Okay.
Who's voting for us? Is it Kathy?
Kathy.
Yeah.
Anybody have any concerns with any of these?
Kathy, maybe you could chat a little bit about the question before us. I mean, obviously, support, we're grappling with some of the same issues that came up on this, but did you have any characterization of it or any opinion on it?
On number 1, the resolution relating to league bylaws, that became necessary because sometimes city council members don't get re-voted. They don't get voted back in, and what did I say? Elected, thank you. They do not get voted back in. That's what I was trying to say. So that became necessary to come up with this change in the resolution of the bylaws. So that's all it is in case someone that is the president doesn't get voted back in. Re-elected. Thank you. So that's all that one is. Number 2, they are trying to get in where the cities have more control over concentration of group homes, and that we have more control over our local zoning. It does say, we're agreeing to preserve the therapeutic environments, which is our neighborhoods. But I guess right now that's what we have to do because that is the law. So that's what basically number 2 is trying to get cities to have control and get the state to recognize that we should have that. Number 3 is to address the impacts of temporary rentals, and that's what everyone's dealing with. And basically what it was is anyone that rents for any time at all, they're saying that the TOT tax should apply to those. It doesn't matter how many days, that the cities have a right to collect those.
We do that already.
I thought we had a
We apply a percentage on vacation rentals.
We have a fee. It's not a TOT.
VRBOs.
I thought it was a percentage.
Don't you have to rent for 7 days, though, James?
No.
It's an annual fee that we charge the owner, but it's not.
No, it's a 10% tax on that.
Yeah. On a rental.
Any rental, any time.
Well, the problem is with the Airbnb, I guess it's exploding because there's a phone app now that people can use to find these homes, and they are not registered or have a business license, or, they're not paying the TOT.
Yeah, Airbnb is his house to 5 different girls, right?
Yeah, I do. But I think part of what the challenge is ultimately, I'm interested by this because what you have to do eventually is have people in a city pay through, because you can put a percentage tax on any fee. So like a lot of the times when you're going through there, you can add a percentage of tax, local taxation, to your fees on whatever you rent it for. And so for here in town, we had a staffer, I believe, that was following up on Airbnb rentals and vacation rentals and was
The business license division follows up. They go online, they search out rentals that aren't part of the business license program, that aren't part of the TOT program, and they try to get them signed up. We have about 300 of them right now in the system, and that number's always changing.
We know there's more. So I think cities like Mammoth were writing in and saying that they have, I think it was Mammoth, they have 3 full-time people that do nothing but research these because they realize the TOT tax is so important to their area. And the other problem is some of these rentals, vacation rentals, are taking up our housing element. People are taking away apartments where people could be living here full-time and renting them to weekend people only, and so that is affecting our housing element, and other cities are recognizing that. So that's basically what number 3 is about. And number 4 is they want to make, anytime there's an outage, they want to make it compulsory that Edison pays people automatically for outages, because people lose food, and maybe there's people that are required to be on medical equipment where they have to have electricity all the time.
I don't know if I support number 4. The problem I have with number 4 is ultimately we handicap electricity production in California and then punish them when they have outages that aren't necessarily, for example, we don't do coal.
Right.
We have nuclear no more here in town. And I know, shocking. But I'm just saying, that's an interesting resolution. I'm just curious about, that's the first time I've heard of that one.
I think it's more about, some of the issues that Edison is having, like up in Long Beach, where their infrastructure is failing and it's going out for no reason. It isn't part of a normal blackout or widespread outage for a region. It's more about these long-term blackouts that they're having in different individual portions through the lack of upkeep of their infrastructure.
I'm just curious, though, because the penalty is they don't make money during the time that they're not generating electricity. So there's already a financial penalty incurred in that. I just am wondering why you would add a multiplying
I think there's no
effect.
incentive for them to have reliability and upgrade and maybe be able to do transfers from another area.
I don't love number 4 either.
I know, I didn't either, but I'm just explaining what it was.
Well, there we go. Well, I can count. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Okay,
So,
well,
problem solved.
one issue was, I think renters don't always have insurance, and so they lose, whatever they've lost in the refrigerator or something like that. I don't know. They put a lot of value on the medical part, but.
I agree with that conceptually, but that's the challenge with energy or any type of thing. You're going to have outages periodically, but when you're dealing with 5 nines reliability, we're having outages once every 4 years. That's a cost of doing business. We just have to get used to the fact in a developed society we have an incredibly consistent energy flow, and periodically it won't be.
So I think the direction is
We
from
are
the
not
council,
serious.
you're not crazy about number 4.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I move that we support resolutions number 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Right.
And I move that we.
Do we need a second on that one?
Oh, no.
Okay, we're good. Okay, perfect.
I'll approve staff's recommendation on opening up the chambers for the June 7th
Gosh, that's coming quick.
primary election and November 8th general election here in council chambers, and that Joanne suggests to us an alternative date for our June meeting, 2016.
Not right now.
Well, we might as well.
Oh.
I have the dates. One option would be Thursday, June 9th, and the other would be Monday, June 13th.
Mondays are bad.
June 9th?
Yes, that would be the Thursday.
I can't do June 9th.
Next year, you already know?
Yep. My work calendar is set for the rest of my life, Lori.
Monday, sorry, June 9th, and what was it?
Monday, June 13th.
I can do that.
Fine.
Okay?
Then
June
you're going to
13th.
have two meetings in a row. Is
We'll
that
have council
okay?
meeting Monday and
Different
Tuesday?
weeks?
We'll have a council meeting on Monday and a council meeting on Tuesday?
No, just, you'll have them every week for 2 weeks, right?
Oh, so the 13th and the 21st.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I love to
Is
hang
that
out
okay
with
with
you guys.
staff, or
That's
should we
okay
just
by me.
cancel it?
Oh.
Well, let's just put it on the calendar and then maybe.
Ooh.
Should we,
Keep it on the calendar.
Yeah, we can. yeah.
Why don't we just do a long one for Lori and we'll go till 2 in the morning? On the 21st, just combine them into one.
Okay.
Okay.
I can be sick that day.
Okay, council meeting.
Okay, so we're done with that.
Okay, Monday, June 13th,
Yeah.
now. Okay.
Still in the Lewisburg rules still in effect?
Okay. City manager? Anything?
Good.
City attorney? Any council members?
I have one.
Oh, you're not doing, okay, go for it.
Yeah. So those of you who were around for the general plan know that the housing element was held out from the general plan development because at the time it was very up to date. We're now updating our housing element, and I want to encourage everyone and anyone in the public to come to these public workshops, because this is about rental properties, this is about affordable housing, this is about what our future looks like in terms of the places we live. And so the 2 dates are Wednesday, September 23rd, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Rancho San Clemente Business Park, 910 Calle Negocio City Office. And then the next night, which is Thursday, September 24th, also at 6:30 to 8. And this one is at the Community Center on Calle Seville. And so I plan to go to one or both of those for sure, and I hope we have a great public turnout. And then the last thing I'd like to say, I'd like to ask city staff to put the surveymonkey.com link on the homepage of the website for as long as is necessary. I've had some concerns that people can't get to the questionnaire to participate in the housing element. So I encourage anybody in the audience to give us a day or two to get the surveymonkey.com San Clemente Housing Element questionnaire up. It takes 3 minutes. It will be so helpful to staff as they craft our housing element.
Tim?
Sure. Only thing to report is this past Friday, the Watershed Task Force held their annual art auction. It was a great opportunity to raise funds for not only Earth Day, but also for the Marine dinner that they do in Christmas, and it was very successful. I'd like to thank everyone who participated. You know, there's so many passionate people behind it who put it on, and just raise some awareness about the Watershed Task Force, the work they do, and it's a great opportunity to make a fool of myself, which I did as the auctioneer, and George, and make fun of George Gooch, which is always good fun too. But ultimately, we raised a good amount of money and had a good evening selling art, and just wanted to tell the council went well, and that you're also all invited to attend the Marine dinner in December when they do that, and they give away all the gifts that this helps fund. So it was a lot of fun, and I just want to thank everyone who showed up and bought art and was so generous.
Kathy?
Is this where I'm reporting on TCA?
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Shoot,
We forgot about that. Okay, so in one of our prior meetings, Councilmember Donchek brought up the fact that she heard a conversation between OCTA and TCA that might affect our plans for our HOV lane in San Clemente. So we've all talked together, and what it was a conversation where TCA thought they heard about OCTA's, they were going to do I'm looking for the word, a project study report on this, on the HOV lane, and they thought that because they're doing a study presently, an ascertainment study on the 241 extension beyond Tesoro, they thought it'd be confusing to the public to have both of the projects in the public eye being talked about at once. So they kind of just had a casual conversation that maybe OCTA should not do their study and let TCA go through. But that has all been talked about now, and it's off the table. They have agreed that OCTA and TCA can dually do their projects and just work together. But what I wanted to mention is TCA does seem more committed to working together with OCTA and SCAG, Air Quality Management District, and Caltrans to try to partner with what they think is regional mobility problems, and it was in these discussions that this came out. But TCA, their official word is that they are only in the early stages of a very deliberative planning and outreach process related to regional congestion in South Orange County. There is a consultant conducting the ascertainment study that I reported to council about that is just halfway through and is not completed yet. They are trying to determine from the community how they define the mobility challenges in our area and in South Orange County on the I-5 freeway. I have heard through some of the people that have talked to this consultant that they are very worried about the Pico interchange and the outlet mall. It is their opinion that Pico, even after we have it designed and reworked, is not going to be adequate. So that's just a concern that I've heard, but I think that Pico right now is not working because it's under construction, and when they see more construction of the outlet mall happening, they just have that fear that it's going to be bad. So I think TCA is going to have to take that into consideration. But it might mean that they are kind of looking at the Pico interchange a little bit, that they're hearing from people it's not adequate. So I did ask them to reach out to our staff and talk to them about that. This study that they're in is only step 2, and they have about 8 more steps to do. But the big announcement is the project alignment beyond Tesoro is undetermined at this time, and there is no imminent announcement of anything related to the 241 toll road project by TCA. There is no alignment to announce. Any extension of this roadway would require new and complete environmental process, and that would include all the public participation. So that is how it came out, but the good news is OCTA, I think the project study's going to go forward because that's important to us, and there's no alignment. But, we did get a memo from Bill Cameron, so we have to kind of keep that in mind, and I think we need to wait for some more information on alignments they're looking at. They have hired a new project manager, and that's what he does, figures out these alignments. So I think, OCTA and TCA, we need to really work and figure this out, especially us being on this council, and figure out how the mobility will work and not impact our city. I mean, that's number one for me. I want to see the mobility, increase, but I really want to be careful of the impacts that we incur for regional mobility.
Well, so Kathy, a couple of things. When that ascertainment study is done, can we count on you to invite the CEO to come and visit our city council and present it directly to our city? And if it's halfway through and it's been 3 months, that sounds like it might be January. But we really are the leading edge of the spear on any of the alignments that this new project manager may or may not be putting together. So that would be number one. And number two, yes, the OCTA's project study report is back on track. And just to be clear, its purpose is to determine what would be involved with taking the HOV lane from Pico to the San Diego line. And so I am still puzzled why the TCA would have had any part in that conversation, and we'll never know, but I appreciate you getting to the bottom of that. But it's very important for our city to understand how this option works, because what I see from my OCTA stance is if we don't take care of our own destiny here on the ground, groups like SCAG will come in and have that conversation for us. And so I do ask you as our representative, I think these are very important times at the TCA, make sure you're asking the right questions and being a voice for our city, because cities like Anaheim and Irvine, they don't really, I'm not speaking for those two specifically, but hypothetically, they look at a Google map and they're like, oh, here's a green space, we'll just run the connector right through there. So we need to make sure that our needs are voiced.
I think after this ascertainment study at the community level, they are supposed to reach out to city councils. And so I asked them to please reach out to our staff and Bill Cameron specifically, along with us, not to just come and talk to us, but reach out to our staff and really talk to them about what they're thinking of doing, so we can head off some of this stuff and get it right. So that is one of the requests. They were available, they could have come tonight, but there's no alignment, so everything seems to be worked out between OCTA and TCA right now.
And if you see opportunities to take this La Pata extension idea down to Christianitos in any conversation, because what I find is the conversation is happening, if it's not the 241, what's it going to be? And so if we have ideas, if we want beefed up mass transit, if we want this carpool lane to the finish line, if there are other things we can put out under the responsibility of South County circulation, it's important to do.
Absolutely.
While we're on the subject of toll roads, we were going to hear something about the 405 toll lanes. Didn't we have a plan for bringing that up maybe in September or October?
Yeah, I can bring you something next time. There's no, I'll bring you the milestones of what's going on up there.
Okay.
October.
October? Sure. While Tim was busy selling art, I was doing a blood donation down at the community center, and Tim was kind enough to come in and make fun of me there, too.
And
So
I did,
just
too.
warming up for George Goose. And as
He
was
wasn't
Kathy, so
conscious,
thank
he
you.
was passed out, the side of needles, he was, you
We
know.
were trying to get a
But
picture.
that is a great thing if you are a blood donor every other week at the community center on Friday. The Red Cross is there. It's a great thing. So, and Laura, we show the slide this Saturday. We're having a big deal
Whoa, that's the San Quentin Pier?
at the pier, 9 o'clock. Coastal Cleanup Day. Please come and participate. Bring your kids. Okay, thank you.
So, first off, I'd just like to thank Sergeant Bull for keeping us safe tonight. You look very tactical out there. I appreciate it. Oh, I thought you got promoted. Oh, well, you're sergeant tonight, in my eyes. And Chief Capobianco, you're looking very dapper in those new uniforms. Thank you for hanging out this evening. Yeah. I wanted to bring up, we have the contest going on, the Hurley Pros going on right now. It's going to wrap up at the end of this week. And the city and the WSL has partnered to bring the community a big screen that's located down by Lifeguard Headquarters, if anybody's noticed that. I've gotten a couple questions about it. So it's not movies in the park or anything of that nature. It's funded by the WSL, and it's so you can go down to the beach locally here and watch the contest. And the final should be happening on Thursday or Friday. And we are actually going to do a movie event there, although it's not a movie in the park. Tomorrow they will be debuting Felipe Toledo's, can't remember the title of the movie, but his newest film out. And it will be tomorrow at 7 p.m. at Lifeguard Headquarters on the big screen.
It's going to be in Portuguese?
No, it'll be in English. Felipe Toledo is one of our newest residents, actually.
Yeah,
He just
I know.
purchased a home in
I
town.
want to chat with the guy here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I had a
Tim,
pal
did you
from
get to speak with the,
where he lives in Fortaleza.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talk weird there.
Yeah, they do. Portuguese does not sound like Spanish.
No, it's a different type of Portuguese.
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet him.
Yeah. So anyway, it's going to be a good event tomorrow night. I hope to see everybody there. Our city manager is going to be bringing his two boys down, and I'm sure they'll be sitting front row, shouting excitements at the screen. So, no, I'm just kidding. They're very well-behaved kids. Anyway, with that, Laura, would you like to adjourn the meeting?
Tonight, we are going to adjourn in memory of Max Berg, and to get the business piece out of the way, the next meeting will be held on October 6th in the council chambers, closed session at 5, and the regular meeting will begin at 6. We're adjourning in honor of a community icon who we lost on September 4th, 2015. Max Berg, whose namesake of the Max L. Berg Plaza Park passed away at the age of 90. What a life. He began his career in 1950 as a San Clemente Reserve police officer. In 1956, he was elected as city clerk, and he held that position for almost 30 years, re-elected each and every time. So I'd like to adjourn this meeting in Max's honor and express sincere and heartfelt condolences to Max's children, Barry, Sherry, Debbie, and Linda, and Max's many grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and would like everyone to know that Max was preceded in death by his wife, Helen. It's a really sad time when you lose somebody as special as Max. Max was loved by everyone, but he was also universally known for his positive attitude, and it was symbolized by his signature thumbs up. So as we close the meeting tonight, I would like my colleagues to join me in a salute to a life well lived and a big thumbs up to Max. Thank you.
I think he began his career in World War II. Some of those World War II photos were absolutely spectacular, though. That was great.
Nope. So, second. There we go. Motion by Donchek, second by Baker. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.